Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Wednesday, March 11th. Not a good day on the show yesterday. It looked like we were going to get it done with Mercyhurst. They were covering, I think, pretty much the majority of that game. The game was tied with 4 minutes to go. They wind up not covering and losing by 9 in a game that Long Island didn't really need to win, although they did have the home crowd. But still, it's like you're winning it in name only, I don't know. I'm pissed about that. And then we got the win with the Islanders, and you might say, well, we got lucky because they were down 3-0 in that game. They wound up tying and winning in overtime after they were down 3-0 in the second period. But if you look at the game, like, they dominated that game statistically. There was a point where they were out shooting. Who were they playing in that game? I don't even remember. The Blues. They suck. The Islanders were out shooting them 23-5 in the first period, and they were losing the game 1-0. So you got to be kidding me, dude. There was a point where they had like a 40-17 shot edge, and they were losing 3-1. It's insane. The Islanders, the game should not have even been close. Statistically, it was a blowout Islanders win, but we did get it right. We did get the win, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves, I don't know what they did. They were winning the game throughout the first half, and then they had the worst second half that you'll ever see. I don't know what that was. So I'm pissed about that. We're going to move on to today. I'm only going to have one play. I'm trying to be really, really selective here. We're going college basketball with the one play today. I mean, there were only 2 hockey games and 6 NBA games. I'm skipping all that. Trying to just pinpoint the one thing that I want that I think gives us an edge with numbers and pretty much with the situation. And it's a situation I was kind of eyeballing anyway. So we're going with this one play in college basketball. I was briefly going to mention NFL stuff, I guess, because the free agent market is going crazy, and everybody's talking about, the Dolphins are idiots signing Malik Willis. I'm like, I don't think they are, dude. Like, he's not good, dude. Tua, who is now, going to be, the starter for the Falcons. I have no idea. He's no good, dude. I'm like, the Dolphins, they just got run to the ground. Tua was terrible. The organization was terrible. The coaching was terrible with McDaniel. Malik Willis, he's actually good. People just haven't seen that much of him because he's always been a backup. But, I had that bet that I gave out on the show on the Ravens against them, against the Packers when he was playing with the Packers towards the end of the season. If he didn't get hurt in that game, I don't know. That bet might have been a little bit different. We probably still would have won it, but Willis was awesome in that game, dude. He can run all over the place. He had multiple, rushing touchdowns in that game, I'm pretty sure. That's what he does. People make fun of his college career because I think he played where did he play? At Liberty, maybe? And, his college numbers didn't look that good. He, didn't really play that much in college, to be honest. He did have a win in the Cure Bowl where he ran all over the place against Coastal Carolina, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think Willis is not that bad. There's a reason why he's one of the higher paid backups, and he adds like a different dynamic to the game with his legs. So, yeah, I don't know about any of that. I know there have been some other signings and stuff. I know Max Crosby, that thing fell through. The Ravens were supposedly signing him, and then he failed his physical. So I guess he's still on the Raiders. I don't know, man. I have no idea. But whatever. I will do an NFL season win total show because I did really well with that last year. The three that I gave out is like the ones that like you should actually bet. All of them won last year. So we might have I might have some things to say about the season win totals soon. But I like to let the free agent market kind of relax. I like the draft to happen first and whatever. So that'll be in April, and then come in and do the win totals after that because I think you can already bet them. But I like to wait until we really know like what's going on with these teams. Even though obviously that's going to be information, it's going to affect the line. But I don't think you want to bet this early without having that information. So, all right, let's get into college basketball. We're in conference tournament week. The Atlantic 10 is kicking off today with their opening round, starting at 11:30 a.m. on USA Network with St. Bonaventure and LaSalle. There's no doubt about it that St. Bonaventure is the better of these two teams. They are the favorite here, even though they actually lost to LaSalle during the regular season, believe it or not. I think they only played once. They lost by 4 at LaSalle. LaSalle is not the better team, though. I think besides Loyola Chicago, I think LaSalle is the worst team in this conference. I think St. Bonaventure has been an unlucky team and is better than people think they are. Bonaventure is a 5.5-point favorite here. It looks like the money is fading them here, though. 71% of tickets and only 55% of the cash on them. So the market read is saying LaSalle. I somewhat disagree with that. I think Bonaventure will win the game. They're the better team, so that's what I have to go with. But, I don't know about as far as covering, though. I don't really have a great read on the game. Bonaventure finished the season bad with 3 losses in a row. So, again, I kind of like how that sets up because you can sort of reset when you get into the conference tournament, For LaSalle, they did lose their last game as well, so both teams are coming into this with probably the ability to reset. I suppose the other thing I like about St. Bonaventure is that they're 1 game below 500, so that can kind of be a mental motivator as well. Because basically, if St. Bonaventure, they'll have to win 2 games to officially have a winning season because they can't win and then lose, and then they'll, if that happens, they'll still be below 500. But I think it motivates you a little bit more. Like you want to try to not have a losing season. So that's what I'll say about that. The other game in the Atlantic 10, USA Network, also an afternoon game, is Loyola Chicago and Richmond. Loyola Chicago, really bad season. They finished the season on a good note. They beat George Washington to finish the season, but I think that's bad coming into the tournament because I don't like teams that the last game they played before the tournament was a big win, and that was. I still don't think Loyola Chicago is very good. They actually beat Richmond 2 games before that, too, by 3 at home, which I assume was an upset because Richmond is the better team, and probably enough so that they were actually a road favorite. Yeah, they were 2.5 in that game. I think Richmond will remember that and will probably be able to fix some things, and that began a 3-game losing streak to end the season for Richmond. So, yeah, I would prefer Richmond in this one. They will be favored, though. They are the better team. Not a whole lot else to say about this. The money is coming in on Richmond for what that's worth. They're a 5.5-point favorite. 62% of the tickets on Loyola Chicago. 91% of the cash on Richmond. All these games are being played in Pittsburgh for whatever reason. So, I don't know that that's really a location edge for any of these teams. I know LaSalle is in Philadelphia, but, they're across the state. St. Bonaventure might actually be closer location-wise because they're somewhere in, western New York. So that's all I have to say about that. I don't really have a whole lot with the A10 there. But, yeah, they're going to be ugly games for sure. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right. But yes, I like Richmond's ability to bounce back, reset basically after an ugly end to the season and readjust and adjust for those for losing to Loyola Chicago that other time. That Loyola Chicago team is bad, dude. Peacock at noon is going to kick off the Big Ten, day 2 of the Big Ten, Maryland and Iowa in the first game. Maryland got the win yesterday, which I was kind of surprised by. Oregon had a horrible start to that game, and then Oregon almost came back in that game. So Oregon looked a lot better towards the end of that game. Maryland did get the win, and I think it'll be helpful because it did end a 4-game losing streak for them. So now they have a little bit of momentum, and one of the major factors here is Maryland already played a game in this tournament, so now they're adjusted to it. They shed the nerves. They got a win. They're used to playing in this arena here with no more pinwheel logo, by the way, for the Big Ten. Dude, the pinwheel logo was everything. That was like the image of the Big Ten tournament, and now we can't do it because we have 18 teams now. Dude, just make an 18 fucking thing. 18, a pinwheel with 8, whatever the 18, whatever the hell those things are, instead of 10, 18 pins. Anyway, that's all stupid. Iowa, I don't like how Iowa sets up in this game. Iowa comes into this off of 2 huge games against Michigan and Nebraska, where they played really close in both of them. We did get a win here on the show with Nebraska, but it did happen in overtime. So we kind of got lucky with that. After Iowa actually, I think, hit a 3 to send that game into overtime. So Iowa's coming off 2 monster efforts there. They, believe it or not, they actually lost at Maryland earlier this year, so maybe they'll have some adjustments, maybe take Maryland a little bit more seriously than they would otherwise. But I like that Maryland played already and got a game under their belt. That is a factor. Like, people will always think, oh, they're not going to be rested because they played yesterday, but that's not the case. Like, these teams had a couple of days off before that. And Maryland was coming into that off a big game, though, against Illinois, which is part of the reason I didn't like them yesterday. But the fact that they got the win, they got the job done, they're used to playing on this floor, you get the nerves out of the way. I think that's an advantage to Maryland. I like Maryland in this one, plus the points, man. I don't think Iowa's going to lose, but they're up to a 12.5-point favorite. Iowa is not a team that covers as a favorite like that, really. They play the game at an extreme slow pace. Totals at 134. Iowa looks like they are taking the money, though. 65% of tickets on Maryland, 50-50 on the cash. But, yeah, I would lean towards taking the points with Maryland in that one. Also in the Big Ten, we have USC and Washington in the afternoon at 2:30. Very weird for that to be a Big Ten game. I always have to say it, but it is very strange. If USC is going to show anything, man, it's going to be in a game like this. They had a horrible end to the season, 7 straight losses. They're not going to make the tournament or anything like that. I mean, unless they win this thing, but that's not going to happen. But, they're playing out the stretch now. But if you have any sense of pride or anything like that, you do not want to have the season end like this. They lost their last game by 31 points at home to their rival UCLA. And like I said, the conference tournament can be a reset, man. So what you see at the end of the season might be completely different than what you see here. Like, you might actually see USC, conference tournament time now. Maybe they're actually going to show up and play a good game for once. They did just lose to Washington not that long ago. Washington beat them by 19 points in Washington. Washington did lose their final game at Oregon. I'm going to lean to USC here. Washington's a 5.5-point favorite. I would lean towards taking the points. Whenever I say I lean to some side, I do mean against the spread. 76% of the tickets, 57% of the cash on Washington. So they're a public side, interestingly, because you would think USC would be public because they have the better record, right? And they were in the tournament picture like all year. So you'd think the public would be like, oh, I'm getting 5.5 points. That seems awesome. But they're not even doing that. USC's lost so many games in a row. The public is like, nope, I'm not touching that team. Again, conference tournament time, completely different scenario, environment. Maybe USC shows up for once. I would lean towards them getting the points. Do I want to actually make it a play? No, I do not. But I would lean that way. Mr. Pinsey, what's up? I did not like SMU yesterday in that one. Overvalued team because everybody knows they're on the bubble. I mean, one of those teams was going to win, and it happened to be them, but I didn't like it at all. I did lean to Gonzaga, though, in that scenario. Because Santa Clara was coming off that huge win. Gonzaga was coming off a very, very bad-looking win. So, yeah. All right, Big Ten. Next game is, I think I skipped one. Northwestern and Indiana on the Big Ten Network at 6:30 p.m. I don't think I missed one, right? I think they're 4. Yeah, I don't think they're any more than 4 at any. Well, I could see them here anyway. Yeah. This is kind of an interesting one. I mean, you got to think Indiana's going to be overvalued here, man, because everybody knows Indiana's a bubble team. They're like one of the first teams out in most of the bracketologies. So I think Indiana, you're going to be paying a price if you want Indiana. Now, they did finish the season bad. They lost 5 of 6, so including losing at home to Northwestern, by the way. So there are some things that I would like about Indiana here. The fact that they closed the season on a bad note, that probably means you're going to get a motivated effort out of them. They lost at home to Northwestern as a favorite, so that probably means you're going to get an effort out of them. They'll take them seriously. On the other hand, Indiana's going to be overvalued because everyone knows they're on the bubble. Northwestern is an undervalued team, man. As I keep saying, they're not as bad as their record looks. They're probably the unluckiest team in this entire conference. And they played yesterday, so they already played on this floor. By the way, all these games are in Chicago at the United Center, the Bulls Arena. So Northwestern, the fact that they played yesterday, they got an easy win against Penn State. So they're familiar with the surroundings now. They get the nerves out of the way, familiar with the floor, whatever you want to say. Yeah, I lean to Northwestern here. 54% of the tickets are on Indiana. They're all the way up to a 5.5-point favorite. 63% of the cash on Northwestern. So the money's agreeing with me on that. Yeah, I like Northwestern plus the points in that one. Yeah, well, the Islanders never should have been losing in that game. It was one of the most dominant statistical performances you'll ever see. Like, again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, at one point, they had like 20 more shots on goal, more than that, and they were still losing the game. You almost never see something like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. They should have won that game in a complete blowout based on the statistics. That was that was the game that I got the most correct yesterday. And then the last game in the Big Ten is Rutgers and Minnesota. This is an ugly one. These teams both like to play slow. An under might make sense in a game like this. Now, one thing I forgot to mention yesterday about totals, you want to look towards unders in like these opening games and maybe even in the first halves of opening games because these teams have to get adjusted to the new venue, right? Especially when they're playing in a big NBA arena. It's different for these college teams, you know what I mean? Because the arena's bigger than what they're used to, so the sight lines get fucked up. So, like, three-pointers a lot of times are not going down right away and whatever. So, especially, these teams are coming in. They're not used to the venue yet. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think either of these teams played yet. So, you know what I mean? So, the unders in these first games make sense. But then once you get, like, tired teams and whatever, as the tournament goes on, I actually think the overs kind of make more sense as teams get more adjusted to the venue. But then in, like, the finals, I think the unders are worth a look again because teams really start focusing on defense again. So, but this game, I think both of these teams are coming in not having played yet. This is Big Ten Network, 9 p.m. Both teams play really slow. They're not very offensively proficient. Minnesota ended the season with a pretty good win over Northwestern. So I don't love that for them as far as the side is concerned. They blew out Rutgers not that long before that, so they might take Rutgers unseriously. Rutgers coming into this, they won as well at the end of the season, but it was only against Penn State. So I think I would probably lean towards taking the points with Rutgers in this one as well. Minnesota's a 5-point favorite. They are the better team. 75% of tickets, 90% of the cash on Minnesota. I think Minnesota was dealing with some injuries towards the end of the season. I don't know if that's still the case or not. But, in a game that looks like points might be at a premium, it really could get ugly, and it could be pretty close. So, I would fade the public that's on Minnesota there. I would take the points with Rutgers. Not a very strong opinion for me, though. to be honest, I think probably the best side in the Big Ten is Maryland plus the points, but the money is completely disagreeing with me on that. So, yeah, I don't love seeing that, but the money is agreeing with me on the under in Rutgers, Minnesota. It's only dropped a point to 136. I would definitely have that in consideration in that game, the under. All right. ESPN2 has the ACC. The first ACC game is Pitt and NC State. Pitt, the way they won that game yesterday was crazy. They bounced Stanford yesterday. Stanford is done. They're not going to make the tournament now. No chance. Good win for Pitt yesterday. Good effort from them. It was a close game. I watched the end of it. The final possession where Pitt won was crazy, dude. Like, they missed a three. The rebound bounced all the way back out beyond the three-point line. Pitt lost the ball, and it went past half court, but it wasn't a back court because they lost possession. They got it back, then got back. This is all, like, once they got it back, there were, like, 7 seconds left. The dude, like, just took it and drove to the basket, took a pretty defended shot at the basket, missed it, got his own rebound somehow, put it in with like less than a second left. It was insane. Big win for Pitt. It was an upset win. So, I tend to not like teams that are coming off upsets like that, but one thing that can be said about Pitt is they already played in this arena. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina, by the way. So Pitt is adjusted to the venue at least, so they do have that advantage with NC State here coming in cold. Now, NC State, they finished the season real bad, though, including losing to Stanford. So people might say, hey, Pitt beat Stanford yesterday. NC State lost to them at the end of the season, and maybe think that there might be value taking Pitt plus the points here for that reason. The fact that NC State lost 4 games in a row to end the season, but, one of them was sandwiched in between Virginia and Duke. Didn't really expect them to beat Virginia on the road or beat Duke, although I expected a more competitive performance out of them. I know we took a loss on the show with them against Duke. But a team that ends the season on a really bad note like that, a lot of times they will come out and play a lot better in the conference tournament. So there are some things to like about NC State in this game. They actually went up from a 6.5-point favorite to a 9-point favorite here. 74% of tickets, 84% of the cash on them. So the money looks like it is laying it with NC State here. I guess I would lean that way slightly, but there's no way that I would want to lay 9 when you could have laid 6.5. I would not recommend it. Plus, you kind of know NC State's going to be a little bit overvalued because if they lose this game, they're going to be sweating it out on Sunday, Like, they've fallen enough that they're sort of a bubble team right now, so they do have to worry about that. They better at least win this game for their purposes, but what that means is the pressure is on them. It does mean they're probably going to be an overvalued team in the market, so I don't like that about NC State, even though I really think Pitt is pretty bad. So, yeah, I don't know. That's not a game that I would want to touch in any capacity, really. All right. The next game up in the ACC is SMU and Louisville on ESPN at 2:30 p.m. SMU did get the win yesterday. They beat an inferior Syracuse team, so they had a nice, easy win. They got adjusted to the venue, so that's a little bit of an advantage to them. What may be less advantageous is the fact that they beat Louisville at home, not too far back there. So Louisville might have some adjustments to make there. Louisville finished the season actually on a good note. They won the last 2, including beating Syracuse, but they beat Miami to finish the season. I don't love that they finished the season with a big win against Miami. So they come into this, they could have their momentum disrupted. They could be in kind of a letdown spot here. Louisville's going to be a favorite, and those are the types of situations where you do want to look to the bubble team like SMU. Like, I would not have wanted them yesterday where you know that they're going to be an overvalued team because they're the favorite against an inferior team. But now that they're an underdog and they have that game out of the way under their belt, and you know that they're motivated because they're trying to make the tournament, that's the situation where I think you might want to be looking towards them. So I would probably lean towards taking the points with SMU here. The line did drop below that key number 7, though, to 6.5. 65% of tickets, 70% of the cash on SMU. I agree with that money, though, although I worry that SMU's a public side, though. People love these, like bubble stories and whatever, but I think I would lean to taking the points with SMU in that one. All right, continuing the ACC. What else we got? Cal and Florida State is the next game. Where's that at? I keep getting thrown off because of these Pacific Coast teams that are in the ACC now. This is on the ESPNU network. Cal and Florida State. It's an interesting one, man. At 7 p.m. Now, just like with Stanford, Cal is having to fly to the East Coast here again. But they might have stayed on the East Coast because they just played at Wake Forest. So I said that with Stanford yesterday as well. I think Stanford finished the season on the East Coast too against NC State. So my guess is these teams are not flying back to California. I think they're staying on the East Coast. So that does help them a little bit. But this Florida State team, man, they're actually pretty good and pretty under the radar right now. And as I'll show you in a minute, they're favored in this game against Cal. Cal lost on the road at FSU by 2 earlier this season. I wouldn't put that much weight into that game, really. But people are going to look at this. So Florida State, one thing that I worry about is that they finished the season on a good note. They won 3 in a row, 6 of 7. So I don't like hot teams coming into the tournament usually because I think they have a little bit too much rest, and then they can have that momentum snapped, especially with a big win over SMU at home to finish the season. But one thing that I do like about Florida State is people are going to see they're a 4.5-point favorite, and everybody knows Cal is a bubble team. People are going to see Cal is the team with the way better record, and I think the public will have a tendency to want Cal in this game. I think having the team with the way better record getting points, it looks so good to take that team getting points, So there are a lot of conflicting factors here. Although it looks like the public is kind of on Florida State according to the market percentages right now. 62% of the tickets and cash on them. They actually opened 2.5 and now they're 4.5. I kind of like Florida State here in general, but there are some things I don't like about it. It would be more of a market read that kind of leads you towards Florida State here. That plus the unfamiliarity of California with this venue here. But with it being at 4.5, I don't think I could lay it at that point. And, at 2.5, it would have been a much different price, more tempting. I wouldn't be on the game anyway, probably. But Cal does fall into that scenario where they're a bubble team and they're getting points. So you're going to probably get effort out of them in a game where they're getting points. But it also is the case that Florida State is just free-rolling here, man. Nobody expected anything out of this Florida State team this year. And they far exceeded expectations. And now they're here and, expectations are still pretty low for this team, so they can just kind of come in and play loose. So that is a good thing for Florida State. The final ACC game of the day is Wake Forest and Clemson. Clemson is a 5.5-point favorite. The money is indicating on Wake Forest here. 73% of the tickets and only 60% of the cash on Clemson. Now, there are some reasons why I would agree. One is that it's a low total. Clemson slows the game way down, so they don't cover as much as a favorite. Clemson is also coming into this game cold in a way because they haven't played yet in this tournament. Wake Forest did play. Now, the things I don't like about Wake Forest here, they pulled off a pretty nice upset yesterday against Virginia Tech, and it went to overtime. So they did exert themselves a bit more than normal last night. So that may be a little bit of an issue. They beat Clemson the last time they played at home, so Clemson probably will take them seriously this time. And Clemson didn't look good at the end of the season. Even though they won their last game against Georgia Tech, I gave Georgia Tech out as a play, plus the points. It was an easy cover for Georgia Tech there. Clemson struggled in that game and almost lost. But you could explain why. They played Louisville and North Carolina the prior 2 games, 2 really close games, and they were already looking ahead to this tournament. So it was a sandwich spot. So, the market is saying Wake Forest. Some things I do agree with about that, but there are some things I don't agree with either. And I don't know, man. I don't really see Clemson losing this game either. Although I think even if they lose this game, I think they probably are still going to make the tournament. So that would be another reason to maybe look towards Wake. But I also said, Clemson, they're like a good tournament profile team because they play defense and they play slow. So I did say in my ACC preview that they could be a team that makes a decent run in this thing. You know what I mean? So this Clemson team, they have I think there's a wide variance of things that could happen with them here, which you would think would be the case with Louisville because they take a ton of threes. So it all depends on whether they're hitting their threes. But, yeah, I don't know. Clemson, there are some things that are difficult about this spot for them, but if they get their bearings and they get this game out of the way, they might be able to make, a run at this thing in this tournament. By the way, I will say, for Louisville hitting threes and whatever in SMU, this is a game where, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with an over in this game either. Even though Louisville hasn't played yet on this floor, SMU did. And SMU at least might have a little bit of tiredness from yesterday. Probably not yet, though, after one game. But these teams both play offense. Louisville is okay on the defensive end, actually, but Louisville jacks up a ton of threes. SMU is basically all offense, so I could see that game profiling as kind of an over game, and the total is high in the 160s, and it's high for a reason. All right, next conference tournament is the SEC. Big 12, starting at 12:30 on ESPN, Arizona State and Iowa State. Arizona State got a game out of the way yesterday. It was an upset, but it was a pretty easy win. They won by 4, but they were running away with that game, man. Good win for Arizona State against Baylor. Like I said, Arizona State, because Bobby Hurley announced that he's leaving, Arizona State seems like they're playing with some motivation here now, trying to get some games done, get some wins for him here. I think they'll show up for a game against Iowa State, and Arizona State's adjusted to this venue now, the Big 12 venue here, so that's an advantage for them. And I think that advantage is bigger in the Big 12 than in other conferences because I forgot to mention this yesterday, but I mentioned it on some of my other shows. The Big 12 is playing on a glass LED floor. If you guys saw it yesterday, like during the break, the lines on the floor light up and shit. It's insane. And people have said that playing on it, the ball bounces a little bit differently. So players have to get adjusted to that. So even though I liked the over in the BYU Kansas State game yesterday, and I was definitely correct on that one, because it just profiled as an over game to me. But normally, especially these first games that teams are playing on this floor, although I know Arizona State already played here, but I should have mentioned it yesterday. Like I mentioned, in general, you want to look towards unders in these opening games and tournaments because you get these big stadiums and the teams have to get used to the new sight lines, the new venue, have to get used to them. So scoring can be down, especially early in these games. But I think that's even more the case on this weird glass floor because these teams have to get used to it, and the floor itself can kind of mess with the sight lines too. So that's something I should have said yesterday, but I think multiple of the games still went over yesterday, though. But that's something to consider, and I think that does give Arizona State a little bit of an extra edge because they played on this floor yesterday. And, it's an edge anyway in general because they're used to the new venue already. You get the nerves out of the way. But in this venue with that new floor, I think it's even more advantageous. And Iowa State might not take Arizona State that seriously because they pummeled them in the final game of the regular season. So literally the last time Iowa State played, they beat Arizona State by over 20 points. So Iowa State might not totally take Arizona State seriously here. Iowa State, they finished the season on that note. They didn't end a losing streak, so that was good for them. But I think I would take the points with Arizona State in this one. I know it seems really dangerous to do that because I said Iowa State could win this tournament. I think they're actually kind of an underrated team in general right now. They're a very, very good team, like a top 10 team in the country. They're laying 11.5. 73% of tickets are on Iowa State, 59% of the cash on Arizona State. So the money is coming in at Arizona State. I think you might see Iowa State playing a slow game here, which is going to make it more difficult for them to get over this number. The total is in the 140s. Not that high. According to KenPom, Iowa State is a pretty slow-paced team, and they're better on defense than offense. Top 7 in the country, but top 7, I mean ranking in the country. So their ranking is actually the same as KenPom's. But, yeah, in this situation, I think more advantages definitely go to Arizona State with the adjustment to losing to Iowa State in a blowout the last time they played. The fact that they're already adjusted to this venue. They seem to be playing with motivation for Bobby Hurley right now. So, yeah, I would lean to Arizona State plus the points in that one. That one's not on my card, though. The next game up in the Big 12 is on ESPNU at 3 p.m., and this one is my game. Let's talk about it. Giving out my only bet of the day in the middle of the show here. Cincinnati minus 2.5 is going to be the play here. There's a reason why they're favored over UCF, man. And people might say, well, Cincinnati, clearly they're worse than UCF. UCF's been a tournament team, according to the bracketologies, all year. And Cincinnati had to play on the opening day. UCF is the better team. No, they aren't, actually. Cincinnati is actually the better team, but people are going to be misled, by the records. It looks like UCF is the better team based on the records, but they're not. And KenPom really kind of bears this out. Cincinnati, he's got 43rd in the country, UCF 53rd, so 10 ranking spots lower. UCF is definitely the better offense, almost a top 30 offense, but Cincinnati, the bigger gap is towards Cincinnati being close to a top 10 defense. Believe it or not. Cincinnati is a great defense. They struggle to score, but you're not asking them to win by too much here. If you want to money line this, I think that's okay as well. Just get them to win the game. But, yeah, Cincinnati, very, very good on defense. They're a sneaky good team, actually. They're on the bubble right now, and I know UCF kind of is as well, but UCF has been more, safely in the tournament all year, whereas Cincinnati, they're in that bubble picture, so I think they can kind of just play a little bit looser because they didn't really have expectations like that, But now they're kind of on the bubble, which does mean you're going to get motivation out of them. There's a huge luck disparity here in KenPom, where KenPom has Cincinnati 325th in luck, which means they've underperformed drastically compared to what they really are. That means they've lost close games, etc. They're a bottom 40 luck team, whereas UCF is 21st in the country in luck. So they have massively overperformed, according to KenPom, which has been the case all year pretty much. There will probably be a little bit of a contrast in styles here, too. UCF tries to play fast. I think Cincinnati is going to try to slow the game down. They're more of a mid-tempo team, but I think to throw UCF out of what they want to do, I think Cincinnati wants to slow this game down, play defense. So I actually like that as well because it is easier to slow the game down. So I prefer that, and I prefer better defense, obviously, especially in a tournament environment. And let's make it better. Cincinnati already played on this stupid glass floor that you can see right here. So Cincinnati's already used to it. They got a win over a bad Utah team yesterday, but I think that's good because they can use it as a tune-up. And they didn't look good in the game, right? They only won by 7, but they had a handle on that game, man. They won this game pretty easily. The game was over, and then they kind of took their foot off the gas. But what I like about it is Utah cut it to 5 with 1 minute to go. So Cincinnati got a little bit of a scare there, which will mean they do have to focus a little bit more here. Because, I like teams that were big favorites that didn't cover. And that Cincinnati also falls into that category because they were like an 11.5-point favorite yesterday. And they could have covered. But, again, they took their foot off the gas. They got a little bit of a scare at the end. It doesn't really look it doesn't look good, only beating Utah by 7, you know what I mean? So the public is not going to be enticed by that, but I like it. Again, they're used to the venue. UCF is not. This is also a weird, it's kind of a weird place for both these teams to have to play in Kansas City, but it's a little bit weirder, I think, for UCF to have to come up from Orlando to do that, although they actually finished the season in West Virginia. The only thing, this would be almost, I would like almost every aspect of this play. I mean, I do like almost every aspect of this play, but I would like another aspect of it if UCF finished the season on a good note, which unfortunately they didn't. They lost 3 games in a row, including losing to West Virginia. So that's the one thing I don't like is that they finished the season cold. So a lot of times teams will reset after that, but everything else about this I like. Cincinnati is the play. They look like a little bit of a public side, which I don't love, 72% of tickets. It looks like the actual money is on their side, too, I think. And, the way that I handicap this, hopefully I'm not totally out of line here, pun intended, I guess. 74% of the cash on Cincinnati, so I think the real money is coming in that way. The line is 2.5 and 3 at most spots, so find the 2.5 or, money line. You might be able to find a money line that's in the minus 140s, which isn't too bad either there. So that's that play. Usually I recommend money line in college basketball if the team's -1, -1.5, or -2, though. But in a tournament environment with a team that doesn't score that well, money line is definitely an option with Cincinnati there as well. All right. The third game in the Big Ten, we get to the night slate, is BYU and West Virginia. BYU played yesterday, and they won against Kansas State. Kansas State, pretty bad team, bad enough that they fired their coach. They're going through some turmoil. Now, the good thing for BYU is that was a good matchup for BYU because Kansas State plays fast and they don't play defense, and that's what BYU does. BYU is just better at playing that style than Kansas State is. Now BYU has to go from that game, an extreme fast-paced game against a team that plays no defense, to a team that's going to slow them down as much as any team will, and a team that plays defense, which is West Virginia. So it's going to be a real shock to the system, I think, a huge contrast in styles here. Now, I know BYU is adjusted to the venue, so that's the one good thing they have going for them, but a team like West Virginia that doesn't rely on shooting as much, and they rely on grinding the game down, slowing it down. Coming into a game like this cold is actually easier for a team like West Virginia to do. Now, West Virginia, they finished the season all right with a few wins, 2 wins in their last 3, beating UCF and beating BYU, by the way, at West Virginia. So I guess there will be maybe some adjustments that BYU can make off of that. Like, when a team lost to a team and they're playing each other again right away, a lot of times that team will play better the next time out. But generally in this game, I actually like West Virginia in this game. Believe it or not, West Virginia is also sort of a bubble team. Like, if they win this game, they will actually be in the tournament talk, believe it or not. And I've had them kind of lingering around that first 4 out in mind for a while, and I have them in there right now. Next 4 out, They're not that close. BYU, they're struggling without Saunders, man. Like BYU, basically you take away their big 3 because they have DeBonsa, Saunders, and then I forget who the other guy is. They have like 3 really good players, and you take that one guy out of the mix, Saunders, and it really throws them off, dude. They've been significantly worse since that injury, so that's not good for them. And again, it's a bad styling contrast for them, where West Virginia is going to really try to slow the game down, and you're going to get points with West Virginia here. BYU already dropped from 6 to 4.5, so you already did lose some value on this number here. 85% of the tickets. It looks really easy to lay the points with BYU, right? Everybody loves an offense, Everybody's like, oh, well, BYU, they're still a tournament team. They're still going to be like a 6, 7 seed. West Virginia, who cares about them? The public hates these teams like West Virginia that play super ugly, but I like them just because of that, because you pretty much always get value with them because the public hates them. And the public likes these teams that play all offense and no defense. But 85% of tickets, only 68% of the cash on BYU. Yeah, this is one where I would go against the team that actually got a game under their belt. I would lean towards taking the points with West Virginia in that game. All right. And hopefully, Cincinnati got us a win against Kansas in the Big 12 tournament last year. So hopefully they can do it again, man. I love this Cincinnati team if they keep getting wins for us. Unless they lose for us today, then I'll hate them. All right, the final game for the Big 12 is Oklahoma State and TCU. TCU has moved up to a 5-point favorite. It looks like the money is coming in on TCU. 79% of tickets, 97% of the cash on TCU. I actually don't agree with it, though. Even though I think if TCU gets by this game, I think they could give Kansas some issues. TCU's been looking really good, but at this point, TCU is, I would almost say they're safe in the tournament. Even if they lose this game, Oklahoma State is not the worst team that you could lose to here for your resume. I don't think TCU won a bunch of games in a row now, so I think TCU is actually safe. I think they're going to make the tournament even if they lose this game because the bubble has been so bad. TCU, I think they should. Plus, TCU does have a win over Florida in their back pocket too, which is seemingly is not helping Auburn. But yeah. But Oklahoma State, they played yesterday. They got the win against Colorado. I couldn't read that game, man. And that was another game that went over, by the way, I'm pretty sure. I was going back and forth on that game. Those teams do kind of play an over style, though. I kept going back and forth on it, man, because both teams had played really tough games the game before that. But Oklahoma State got the win. So now they are used to this venue, the weird glass floor venue. Dude, I want to see the floor shatter. Like, can that even happen? I don't know. Like a backboard shattering. Have Shaq do it. Oklahoma State, they have a game under their belt, so that should be helpful to them a little bit here. These teams did play this year twice, I thought. No? I guess they only played once. No, they did play twice, yeah. The first game at TCU was really low scoring, and TCU won. And then TCU also won on the road in a much higher scoring game. Oklahoma State does play pretty fast. TCU won by 3 in both cases, so they didn't really blow Oklahoma State out. Yeah, I would kind of lean to Oklahoma State here, man. I think they got the jitters out of the way. They're adjusted to the venue. TCU is not adjusted to the venue. TCU finished the season really hot, like I said, with 5 wins in a row. So I don't like teams having a break and then having to go into the conference tournament on a huge hot streak like that, because people think the momentum carries, but any change, like changing your venue, going to, an unfamiliar surroundings, whatever, going to unfamiliar surroundings, having time off, whatever the case is, that can hurt your momentum, man. So I probably would take the points with Oklahoma State in that one, but not a strong opinion from me. Oh, and I forgot to congratulate all the conference tournament winners that we got yesterday. So we do have some new auto bids as of yesterday. We had 4 more auto bids clinched. Congratulations to the Hofstra Pride. No, it's not what you think. Their logo is a couple of lions. It sounds pretty lame, though. But yes, congratulations to them. They were the best team in the Colonial this year, power ratings-wise, so they got the job done yesterday. Congratulations to the Siena Saints. Dude, that was one of my futures that did actually come through that I recommended on the show. I thought their path was a lot better. They matched up well against Merrimack, man. Like I said, that previous matchup against them, Siena was the better team in that game. They won that game, but it's going to weaken the tournament field a little bit. I think Siena will wind up a 16 seed, but congratulations to the Saints of Siena. They're actually St. Bernards. Their logo is a St. Bernard dog, not the New Orleans Saints. There were 4. Who am I missing? There were 4 teams that clinched last night. Oh, congratulations to the Wright State Raiders, another football name. They got the win in the Horizon as the 1 seed. They were one of the best teams in that conference. They finally were able to end the season of the overrated Detroit Mercy, and it wasn't easy. It was a close game, but congratulations to Wright State. They will be in as probably a 14 or 15 seed, and then and Hofstra, I think it will actually be like a 13 or maybe a 14. They're actually a pretty solid team. They're in KenPom's top 100, actually. So they're a bit of a more dangerous team, especially because they got one of their best players back recently, one of their better shooters. And who's the 4th? Who am I missing? I'm missing one team, and it should be in my mind, and I'm missing it. Now I got to look. It wasn't the American East, because I think they finished over the weekend after another break. Big Sky, it was not, because they finished tonight. Maybe that was it. Yeah, I don't know. Southland is finishing tonight as well, which I'm going to talk about those games. Conference USA is in the middle of their tournament, or they just started their tournament. Oh, Gonzaga. I was like, who was it? Of course I forgot, because it's like, you don't even think about it. It's like, yeah, of course Gonzaga won again. Yes, congratulations to the Gonzaga Bulldogs, who did win the West Coast Conference yet again. I think Santa Clara is going to make the tournament, though. The bubble has not, like, teams on the bubble are not doing themselves any favors. And Santa Clara, by beating St. Mary's, nobody really expected them to beat Gonzaga, although if they did, obviously they'd have the auto bid. But and Gonzaga would still be in, obviously. But I think Santa Clara is going to get in anyway, of course, although I do have them in the first 4 in my bracket. Okay, that was a bit of an aside there. We got to get through these games, man. The SWAC, the SEC starts at 12:30. These bigger conferences play all throughout the day, man. LSU and Kentucky are in the first game here. These teams, I think that the SEC didn't even start yesterday, I don't think. So I think this is the start of the SEC tournament today. LSU finished the season losing 3 games in a row, but they did play Texas A&M close to finish the season, so that was a pretty big game for LSU, almost upsetting a tournament team, probable tournament team, I should say, on their home floor. So there could be a little bit of a hangover effect here, but maybe LSU will try to break that losing momentum and actually show up and play better here. Now, LSU is the last seed in this entire tournament, but power ratings-wise, they are not the worst team in this conference, man. They're like the third or fourth worst. So they're better than people think they are. Kentucky finished the season with a loss to Florida. That game wasn't really that close, even though they lost by 7. Kentucky, they're going to get into the tournament. It's just kind of a matter of seeding for them. So I don't know how much motivation they really have here. They're up from a 7-point favorite to a 9-point favorite. I think they'll win, but, you know, I don't know, man. They played LSU earlier this year. They only won by 1 on the road at LSU. I think that was the only time they played this year. So they might take LSU seriously, I guess, for that reason. But the money is indicating on LSU, and I kind of agree with it. I don't think LSU is as bad as the 16 seed that they have here. I think Kentucky will win this game, but from a spread perspective, I probably would have to lean to LSU, but no strong opinion really for me on this one. Kentucky, 61% of tickets on them, 55% of the cash on LSU. So do with that information what you want. The second game up in the afternoon is the game that probably everybody's going to be talking about on the SEC network at 3 p.m., Mississippi State and Auburn. Now, Auburn should win this one because they are the better team over Mississippi State, of course. They actually lost the last time they played against Mississippi State. That was one of the losses that Auburn really should not have taken. At least for them, it was a road game. But that was bad, losing to Mississippi State on the road. Auburn is definitely the better team, so they might bounce back from that for that reason. They had a bad end to the season against Alabama. They got kind of blown out in that game, really. They made it look closer later in the game, but they were getting absolutely manhandled in that game, so Auburn did not look good down the stretch. Everybody's rooting against Auburn, man, which might put a chip on their shoulder because all the bubble discussion is, oh, this team has such a terrible record. They shouldn't get in. So in a way, I think that there might be a chip on Auburn's shoulder here. For Mississippi State, they had a closer game, man. They played really close against Georgia, so they almost got a win against a tournament team to finish the season. And while, they ended the season on a 5-game losing streak, and a lot of times the team will bust that losing momentum by getting into the tournament and just having some new life. I don't know, because that was such a tough game against Georgia. They almost pulled off the upset there. You know, the money I know is coming in on Mississippi State here, but I don't actually really agree with it. Auburn's down from 9.5 to 7.5. The one thing I will agree with is that everybody knows Auburn is on the bubble, so they are one of those teams where they're probably going to be overpriced because they're on the bubble. But I don't know, man. Situationally and the fact that they're the better team, I don't see them losing this game. They better win this game. 58% of tickets are on Auburn, 70% of the cash on Mississippi State, though. So the actual money is coming in on Mississippi State. You know, I don't know, man. A lot of conflicting factors in this game, to be honest. So the market read is saying Mississippi State. I don't want to go against the market read like that, but, you know, the situation kind of leans me in the other direction, too. So there's a lot going on in that game. Don't love it at all. The next SEC game is at night at 7 p.m. on the SEC network. Ole Miss and Texas. By the way, all these games are in Nashville, Tennessee. So as far as the venue is concerned, you know, Kentucky, their crowd is definitely going to show up in Nashville. So they probably have the biggest location edge here, but it's also because their fan base is just so expansive. So, you know, probably the venue does actually help Kentucky a bit. Ole Miss, not a very good team. Texas is sort of on the bubble right now. So, you know, Texas is going to give you a motivated effort most likely, but Texas is probably going to be another overvalued team because everybody knows they're a bubble team right now. Ole Miss lost at Texas by 11 this season. I believe that was the only time they played. I think so. So, you know, you have one data point there. But we know Texas is the better team, so that's not really a surprise. Texas finished the season on a bad note. They lost to Oklahoma at home, which that should not have happened. So Texas might be able to bounce back from that. They lost 2 games in a row, got blown out by Arkansas. So, you know, I think Texas will show up with more effort here. Ole Miss did lose their last couple of games as well. including pretty ugly losing to South Carolina at home, so they might show up with some effort as well in this one. And they're playing loose. The pressure's not on them. The pressure is all going to be on Texas here. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite. 92% of the tickets on them and only 81% of the cash. So the public is definitely on the Texas side here. Because, again, they are the better team, but everybody knows that they got to win to continue their run here at trying to clinch a tournament bid. I think they should be in. If you look at their metrics, their offense is like a top 10 offense, even though their defense is not that good. They're like almost a top 30 team in the country. Like, they should get in. They should win this game, but again, the pressure's on. They're probably a little bit overvalued. I'd probably lean to Ole Miss plus the points there. And then we have the late game is South Carolina and Oklahoma on the SEC network at 9:30 p.m. Oklahoma, I don't really necessarily love the spot for them here because they did just beat Texas. So that was a big win. That's a rivalry as well. Not as big as the football rivalry, but it's still the Red River Shootout or whatever you're supposed to call it now. I refuse to call it anything else. Oklahoma finished on a 4-game win streak, too, so they've put themselves right on the bubble, too. So everybody knows Oklahoma's on the bubble now. They're coming off a huge rivalry win and a revenge win, I think, as well, because they lost to Texas at home earlier in the season. So I don't like teams coming into the tournament on a note like that because, again, it's a reset. So you might lose your momentum. You know they're going to be overvalued because they're a bubble team. No one's going to pay any attention to South Carolina here. They did win that final game of the season, which was an upset, but I don't think they're really going to be like in letdown mode or anything like that just because they beat Ole Miss, although they were 7.5-point underdogs in that game. But I would lean to South Carolina in this one, man. Oklahoma's a very public side. They're an 8-point favorite. That number is definitely big. Do I think they'll lose? Probably not, but I would probably lean to taking the points with South Carolina there. Again, these bubble teams, man, usually they're going to be overvalued. I just think the situation might not be quite as bad for Auburn here. And now that I said that, Auburn's going to lose and then be out of the tournament, like, obviously if they lose this game, they're definitely out. But so the pressure is on them, but whatever. I would lean to South Carolina plus the points here. 92% of tickets, 97% of the cash on Oklahoma. I don't buy much. I don't buy that cash percentage that much. I think you just know they're a public side, man. So I would still probably fade all three of them, Oklahoma, Texas, and Auburn. I think I would lean towards taking the points against all of them, but you see, how I weigh the strengths of all of them. I think South Carolina might be the best of those three, but yeah, not a whole lot else to say about it. All right. We're getting into some of the smaller conferences next. We just finished all the power conferences. I will be right back. I'm going to take a break. It's about at the hour mark here, and then I'll finish the show because we really don't have much hockey or NBA to talk about. And you already got my best bet, so I know nobody's watching anymore. You got my bet. You guys get the best bet and you bail. I should wait for it until the end of the show, man, even though you'd know, because it would be the one game I hadn't talked about yet. You'd know what game it is. Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday. And yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. the worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. All right, let's keep going, man. We got the SWAC continuing here where the top teams in the SWAC are jumping into the fray. Now, I think 3 days into the tournament, Bethune-Cookman, the 1 seed, is in action in the afternoon at 2 p.m. against Prairie View A&M. Prairie View A&M, they played yesterday. They got the win. I thought they might be ripe for, well, maybe not an upset, but I thought they wouldn't. I leaned towards them not covering, and Alcorn State was winning that game early in the game, but they really fell apart. So sometimes when you want to lean towards these teams that have played in the tournament already, sometimes it makes sense to take them in the first half because the better team, once they get adjusted to the venue, a lot of times you'll see them play a lot better in the second half, and I think that's what Prairie View did in this one. They just took over. They were really bad in the first half, getting adjusted to the venue. They were losing at halftime, but they wound up completely pulling away in the second half. Sometimes that first half is good enough, but sometimes, good enough to give you the full game. Sometimes it's not. But now Prairie View is the team that does have the game under their belt here. They lost the one time they only played Bethune-Cookman once, it looks like, this season. And they actually scared them. They only lost by 6 on the road. So maybe Bethune-Cookman will come into this with a little bit of motivation just because, motivation obviously is there because these teams are trying to make the tournament. But Bethune-Cookman, they were 10.5-point favorites in that game, and they got a scare. So they might, I should say, the better way to say it is that they might take Prairie View seriously because Prairie View almost beat them. So Bethune-Cookman might not overlook them for that reason. Bethune-Cookman lost their last game of the season to Florida A&M. I think that's a good thing for them because you don't want to go into this tournament on a huge win streak, and they took a loss, and that loss doesn't mean much because Bethune-Cookman they had a 4-game lead in the conference, so they'd already wrapped up the 1 seed, so they had nothing to play for. I gave you guys a lean on Florida A&M in that one. Maybe I should have added it to my card, but the SWAC is usually not something I get involved in. But Bethune-Cookman, they're definitely the better team. They're up to a 6-point favorite here. But because Prairie View didn't have the greatest game yesterday, and they still got that game out of the way, these games are all in Atlanta or somewhere near Atlanta, I'd probably still agree with the market here and take the points with Prairie View. 78% of tickets, 60% of the cash on Bethune-Cookman, so they're a public side with less of the money on them. I don't disagree with the market read in that one. And then the other game that we have going on in that conference is Jackson State and Florida A&M, who are the 2 seed in action. I think the 3 and 4 might not play yet or something. I don't know. Like the top 2 seeds play whoever came out of like the first rounds. But then I think the 3 through 6, I think we're already set and they all play each other. And that probably happens tomorrow or something. I don't know. Florida A&M's up from a 4-point favorite to a 7-point favorite. Looks like a lot of money has come in on Florida A&M already, but I don't know how much I buy that, man. I mean, Jackson State, I'm surprised they won yesterday. They pulled off an upset. They knocked out Grambling. I really thought Grambling would win that game, and they were winning that game late in the game, but they fell apart, lost the game. This game is, where is it at? This game's at 8:30 p.m. For Jackson State, yeah, they pulled off the upset yesterday. Now, they do have a game out of the way. They do have a game under their belt. That was the only game they played in this tournament so far, and that is an advantage, having played on this floor already. So they have the game out of the way. They're accustomed to the venue, whatever. But they did pull off an upset, so that's a little bit of a concern. They did actually beat Florida A&M by 20 points, though, the last time they played. They actually beat them both times. They beat them by 1 on the road and then by 20 at home. Now, A&M is the better team, though, so it's kind of a double revenge spot for Florida A&M here. But Jackson State is very battle-tested. Like I said, they went through a huge gauntlet at the beginning of the season. They had one of the most difficult out-of-conference schedules in the entire country. But that's why. Like, you want to be battle-tested, so then when you get to a tournament like this, you're not scared, you know. So Jackson State does have that, and they have the advantage of having played already in this venue. Even though Florida A&M is the better team and it is double revenge here, I don't know, man. This line seems really high to me, though. Like, what were they favored by at home? Let me see. The game where they lost by 1. They were 7.5, and you're basically asking them to lay the same thing on a neutral now. Yeah, I don't know. That line seems like it's a little bit too high at this point, man. I'd probably lean towards Jackson State plus the points in that one. But, you know, I don't have a great read on the SWAC, so take from that, you know, take it all with a grain of salt, I guess. All right. The Mountain West is happening as well. Let me see. Oh, I think I mentioned where all the other conferences are playing their tournaments, right? I think I mentioned the location. Anyway, yeah, I just try to get all that out there. But yes, we are on to the Mountain West, I guess, I think. Yeah, because I already did the A10. Mountain West begins 3 p.m., Wyoming and UNLV. This is being played at the Thomas and Mack in Las Vegas. That's just how it always is. It is literally UNLV's home floor. So UNLV is the home team, basically, in these games, even though the crowds will show up for some of these other teams. Interestingly, Wyoming actually beat UNLV by 32 points at home when they played them this year. I think that was the only time they played. I think they only played once this year. That is a ridiculous result. And I think it might be a little bit misleading. So maybe UNLV will have some adjustments to make after that. Although Wyoming is not a bad team, though. But they did finish the season with 3 wins in a row, so that might hurt them. Again, your momentum at the end of the season could get a little bit disrupted. UNLV, though, they had a good finish to the season, too. They played 3 huge games in a row against their rival Nevada, got the revenge win there. They crushed the top team in the conference, Utah State. Then they almost upset San Diego State on the road, another one of the best teams in the conference. So UNLV is coming off 3 huge games in a row. So the setup for them really isn't that good here. And, you know, Wyoming may very well just be the better team here. UNLV is going to be a favorite because they're playing literally on their home floor. They're actually up to a 4-point favorite here. Let me see what KenPom, where does he have them ranked? He's got UNLV 104 and Wyoming 98. Like I said, so KenPom actually has he has Wyoming as the better team. He has their offenses ranked about the same, and he has Wyoming as the better defense fairly significantly, and the team that's going to want to slow everything down here. Both teams kind of unlucky, according to him, but yeah, I think I would lean to Wyoming as well here, man. I know it's kind of unfair that UNLV gets to play on their home court every time, but these other teams are used to it as well. Wyoming has been, they've made some noise in this tournament in the past. UNLV up from 3.5 to 4 here. 50% of tickets and 93% of the cash on Wyoming. I actually do agree with it. I would lean to taking the points with Wyoming as well. Not a strong opinion from me, though. Air Force and Nevada. Air Force, man, they're bad. They just have no height. I think because in the Air Force, you actually can't even be above a certain height. So even though they're a disciplined team, they're atrocious. They just don't have the talent. Nevada is a massive 20.5-point favorite against them here. Nevada is playing in a familiar venue, of course, because it's in Las Vegas, the venue of Nevada's rival, UNLV. So they always play here. Although Air Force, I think, pretty much always plays here, too. All these teams do, because it's the Mountain West tournament, so these teams are all used to playing here anyway. But, yeah. 71% of tickets, 78% of the cash on Nevada. Plus, I think they pretty much all have to go to UNLV during the regular season at some point, too. The money is coming in on Nevada. I mean, I wouldn't want to play Air Force, I'll tell you that, but I don't think I would want to lay 20-something points here either, man, in a tournament setting. So this is a complete stay away. These are the ugliest games, man. Nevada just played Air Force, by the way, and they actually didn't cover. They were like 26-point favorites, and they only won by 15 at home to finish the season. So actually, maybe Nevada will actually play better this time. Who knows, man? But yeah, I mean, obviously Nevada will win this game. It's just a matter of by how much. Hard to gauge. Who knows? Nevada might start looking ahead to the next round, though. Like, it's a tournament, so, you're not really incentivized to win by a huge margin like that, you get up by, 17 points or whatever late in the game, you're probably going to take your foot off the gas, so That's what we have going on there. We have Fresno and Colorado State at 9 p.m. In this conference tournament. It looks like these games aren't even on ESPN Plus or whatever, which is stupid, I think. Colorado State's been good. Believe it or not, Fresno did beat them at least once this year, I know. Fresno gave them problems, actually. Fresno beat them by 10 at home, and at Colorado State, they only lost by 4. Now, Colorado State is the better team, so Colorado State might remember that and might make the adjustments and give a better effort this time and take Fresno seriously. Fresno finished the season bad, though. They lost 5 of their last 6 games, only beating San Jose State in there. So they might show up with a little bit of a better effort this time. Colorado State did finish the season with a loss. I think it's actually kind of a problem, though, because they lost a long win streak. They had 8 wins in a row and then finally lost to a Boise State team that's better than people think they are. But I don't like that when you lose a win streak like that, even though, yeah, they ended the season on a bad note. But when it ends, a huge win streak like that, it's basically like it just totally disrupted your momentum. So I think that's actually going to throw off Colorado State's momentum here. I actually kind of like Fresno plus the points here. Colorado State's laying 8. I think Colorado State could make some noise in this tournament. They're actually pretty good, and they're one of the hotter teams in the conference. But the way this game sets up, I don't like it from them. They got to get through it, and then we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I would slightly lean to Fresno, although the money looks like it did come in early on Colorado State, driving them all the way up from 5 to 8. And then we have San Jose State and Boise. Boise's a 14.5-point favorite here. I don't love laying points with a team like Boise just because they do play really slow. Now, I think they should win this game. I think Boise, believe it or not, I actually think Boise has a chance to win this tournament. They're not that bad. Like, they had a season where they underperformed, but KenPom, I think, probably has them as like a top 60 team. Yeah, he has them 55th in the country. That's pretty good. They're actually pretty balanced, believe it or not. Although he does have Boise as a lucky team at this point, believe it or not. But Boise, as always, they do play slow. That's the one thing that's pretty constant with them. San Jose State's a bad team. They did lose 3 games in a row to finish the season. They lost to Boise on the road by 15 the last time they played, and they got really embarrassed at home against them, losing by 31. But Boise's clearly the better team here. But will Boise cover? Yeah, I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. Boise finished the season with 5 wins in a row, including beating San Diego State and Colorado State to finish the season. Those are 2 pretty good wins there. So their momentum might get a little bit disrupted now. They got to go to Vegas. They got to play a team they handled twice already. And they play slow. So I would probably lean towards taking the points with San Jose State. 60% of the tickets are on Boise, 88% of the cash on San Jose State. Do I think Boise's going to actually lose this game? No. But, covering is a different story, especially when you play slow like Boise. The total, is in the 140s here. So, low total. Do with that information what you want to. Canadian Stoner, what's up, man? What are we talking about? Great Shell, who's that? Chelsea? We're talking about soccer now? We're talking about British football? We're talking about the English Premier League. What's going on, man? All right, we got, where am I going here now? Oh, Big East is beginning today on Peacock at 4 p.m., Providence and Butler. NHL, yeah. I gave out a winner in the NHL. That should have been a lot easier of a winner, but I had a bad day yesterday, man. It looks even worse that one looked lucky, too, even though statistically that was a dominant performance from the Islanders yesterday. The other leans that I had in hockey didn't work out, really, so that was the right pick, man, for me. I'm pissed that, the NBA game completely fell apart, and I thought that we had the college basketball one in the bag, and that one lost really late. Not happy about it. Providence and Butler. Providence beat Butler by 10 at home and lost by 3 on the road to Butler in, I think, a multi-overtime game probably. 2 overtimes, very high-scoring game there. So the team split the season series with the home team winning each. Providence lost their last 2 games, so maybe they come into this with a little bit more effort here. You know, when teams lose their last couple of games, a lot of times they will come in and play better. Butler won their last game against DePaul. Not really a big deal there either. This is one of those ones where I think it just comes down to who the better team really is here. And I actually think it is Providence. They are a slight favorite here. All these games are being played in Madison Square Garden, by the way, which that's helpful for Providence as well because that's closer to them. They're more used to playing in this venue than Butler is. Butler has to come in from the Midwest. Providence is favored. They're a 1.5-point favorite. 81% of tickets, 87% of the cash on them. I don't have a real strong opinion on this game at all, but I would lean to Providence in this one. I think they're a little bit of an underrated team right now, man. And they've been fairly competitive against the better teams in this conference, so I kind of prefer them here. Also in the Big East, Peacock at 6:30 p.m. with Xavier and Marquette, and I actually prefer this game to the other one. Now, Xavier played Marquette twice. They beat Marquette by 8 at home, and they lost them by 1 on the road, so that each home team won. Xavier lost their last 2 games, and they did not have a close call against Villanova. So, again, I like teams to kind of reset once they make it into a tournament setting. Xavier does have an experienced coach, at least. They have Rick Pitino's son, Richard Pitino. I won't play the Rick Pitino drop again right now, although I'm kind of tempted to do it. Marquette, I would fade Marquette here, and almost entirely because look at what they did to end the season, man. They basically played their Super Bowl. Like, they're not under any delusion they're going to be able to try to make a run in this conference or whatever, but they finished their season with a home win against UConn. That was a huge win on senior night, so I think they might actually be in letdown mode, even though this is a tournament. I know they did just lose their most recent game against Xavier, so maybe that's reason to show up, but I think the letdown is kind of a big component of this. I'd probably lean towards Xavier. Now, the other issue is Marquette's a 4-point favorite here, and if you look at the odds in the other games that Marquette played against Xavier, this line looks way too high. But I can tell you that the reason for that is that I believe Xavier's best player is injured, Trey Carroll. I believe he got injured in the final against Villanova in their final game, which they lost the game, but I think he got injured in that game, and I'm pretty sure he's not playing here, and I think that's why. Because if you look at look at the game where Xavier was at home, they were actually a 1.5-point favorite here at home in the most recent game. So on a neutral, that would mean Marquette should probably be like a 2-point favorite. 4 might indicate that Carroll's not playing here, man. But if he doesn't play, I still like Xavier here because it means they'll step up their game further. Like they'll try to play with intensity without him. So I do like Xavier here. I think Marquette will be in a letdown spot here. It is kind of a weird venue for both teams because Xavier's in Cincinnati, Marquette is in Milwaukee, so it's probably even weirder for Marquette to have to come and play in Madison Square Garden. Of course, Marquette does still have an experienced coach, Shaka Smart, although I think he is overrated as a coach. I think he was a flash in the pan, man, with VCU, with his havoc defense and whatever. His teams really have not been great since. I know Marquette's had some pretty good seasons under him, but still, they've really failed when it's come to the actual tournament. Not necessarily in this tournament, but I like Xavier here. I'm actually tempted to put it on my card. I don't know, man. You're getting extra value with this number because Marquette is a bigger favorite than they normally would be here. I think because of the injury. I don't love the injury situations in college basketball, though. I think playing those situations is less advantageous than it is in professional sports. But we are talking about Xavier's best player there, so yeah. Do with that information what you want to, I guess. But I do like Xavier plus the points in that one. All right. I think that's it for the Big East, right? No, my mistake. No, there's another game. There's Georgetown and DePaul. We have 3 games. Georgetown, they come into this game. They had broken a long losing streak with their final game of the win over Providence, barely beating Providence and not covering. Depending on what number you got, I guess. But I like that when a team ends their losing momentum. I think that does carry into this if you had just ended a long losing streak. So I don't mind Georgetown coming into this game, like the way that this sets up for them. They beat DePaul at home by 9 this season, and they lost to them on the road by 6. So the home team won each game here. DePaul was actually more competitive this year than they usually are. They weren't bad. They did end the season with 2 losses, which I think, again, the conference tournament serves as a bit of a reset. So teams that lost towards the end actually do perform a little bit better, I think, in that first game of the tournament. DePaul is favored. They're up to a 2-point favorite here from a pick'em. 68% of tickets, 82% of the cash coming in at DePaul. The money is coming in at DePaul. You know, I don't have a great read on this game, so I don't really have an opinion that's that strong one way or the other. I think it is a little bit weirder for a Chicago team like DePaul to have to play in Madison Square, though. Georgetown is in D.C., so I don't know. The market read is saying DePaul. Do with that information what you want to, but I really don't have much of an opinion on that game at all. All right, we do have the final in the Southland between the two teams we thought, McNeese and Stephen F. Austin, but both teams almost lost yesterday. And Stephen F. Austin, very unfortunately for McNeese, because I think they're the better team here. Stephen F. Austin has a much better setup in this game because they played the earlier game yesterday. The game, they won in regulation, and they almost lost to A&M Corpus Christi as a decent-sized favorite, 6.5. And you know, when a big favorite almost loses, they get a scare. I think it might be because they were kind of looking ahead, you know, whatever. I like that team in the next game, so I like that for Stephen F. Austin. And the fact that they played earlier might really come into play here because McNeese had to play triple overtime last night to win the game against Rio Grande Valley. And it was because McNeese couldn't hit any of their fucking free throws. They hit like 50% of their free throws. It was one of the most atrocious free throw performances you'll ever see out of a team. It was unbelievable. Making one of those free throws, they would have won the game in regulation. It was ridiculous that they had to do that. They wound up having to go to 3 overtimes in the late game. Now, the one positive is McNeese did get a scare as a big favorite, just like Stephen F. Austin did. They were 8.5-point favorites and almost lost the game, so that should have them a lot more focused here. You got to think they're going to be going through free throw drills. That was terrible. They had a horrible shooting game, too. Like, dude, they dominated this game. Some of it was because of the turnover edge, but McNeese had 80 field goal attempts in the game to Rio Grande Valley's 59, and yet McNeese only had 4 more makes. That's insane that you can have 20-something more field goal attempts in the game and only make 4 more than your opponent. McNeese should have won this game so much more easily. It's insane. And they had the lead for 62% of it. McNeese was up double digits in the middle of that game. So they were pretty clearly the better team in this game. It shouldn't have been that close. The rebounding battle was close, though. But, yeah, the one good thing for McNeese, I guess, is that one of their best players fouled out in regulation. So he didn't play any of the overtimes. That was Jarrell Colbert, Stephen Colbert. This guy, I mean, he's one of their big men. He fouled out earlier in the game in regulation. So he will be rested at least to some extent. After not having to play the overtimes. And one of their other guys did get hurt, although he came back into the game during the overtime, so I don't know, man. But, you know, it's very unfortunate that McNeese had to do that in last night's game. So that really does give Stephen F. Austin an edge here. The money is coming in on Stephen F. Austin. McNeese is up to a 2.5-point favorite. 57% of tickets on them, 69% of the cash on Stephen F. Austin. I have to agree. Unfortunately, I have to lean to Stephen F. Austin, even though I want to see McNeese get into the tournament again, see what they can do with that ridiculous defense that they play, where, you know, they just really get in your face on defense. They don't even let you get the ball over half court. They force you into really long possession times. So, you know, their games a lot of times an under makes sense here. And yes, last night's game would have gone under for them if it didn't go to triple. I think the game was still over after the first overtime, or still under, after the first overtime period, and it wound up going over anyway because it went to triple OT. Absolutely ridiculous. An under makes sense in a game like this because of the way McNeese plays, but because they might be so tired after last night, I don't think I would want to go under in this one, man. The money has come in that way, though, the total at 134. But I agree with Stephen F. Austin just because they had a scare themselves, and they played the earlier game, and they didn't have to play overtime. So, unfortunately for McNeese, the spot sets up way better for Stephen F. Austin there. So, I actually think they're probably going to wind up winning. This game, by the way, is actually in McNeese's arena, which, again, I don't know why that's the case because they're the 2 seed. It's in Lake Charles, Louisiana. It is literally McNeese's home arena. So, that should be taken into consideration as well. But they're not being lined like they're the true home team, though, because it is a tournament environment, because I think they'd be a bigger favorite. But some of that has to do with the fact that they played last night and had, they barely rested last night, they were actually 10.5-point favorites in the game at home the first time. That line was definitely too high. That was out of control. But I think in a normal home game, they'd probably really be like a 5-point favorite here. They won that game, but they only won by 2, by the way. They did lose on the road by 7 to Stephen F. Austin, but I think that they actually kind of outplayed Stephen F. Austin statistically in that game. So I think it was a little bit misleading. Just taking all that into consideration. Actually, I don't know. The rebounding battle was close. Stephen F. Austin had fewer field goal attempts, actually. McNeese just, again, had a bad shooting game. But, I think that's kind of McNeese's thing. They don't really shoot, at a high percentage. They just... they try to disrupt you with their defense, pretty much. That's what they do. And Stephen F. Austin, they're a team that is the better shooting team at the very least. So I don't know. But, take all that into consideration. But, yes, I'll lead to Stephen F. Austin. I think I talked about that game too much. All right, we have the MEAC in action as well with Delaware State and Morgan State. Morgan State, I think, might be the 2 seed, but I think they're a little bit of a fraudulent 2 seed. I don't think they're particularly good. I think they're worse than Norfolk State at the very least, and Howard is way better than all these teams. But Delaware State's a very bad team. Morgan State is coming off a really bad performance in their final home game against Coppin State, who didn't even make this tournament. I think because they have some academic issues or something. I don't know what's going on with Coppin State, but they're a very bad team anyway, and Morgan State barely beat them. So they might show up with more focus here. They did beat Delaware State not that long ago at home by 14. They beat them on the road by 1. But Delaware State, they are a bad team, man, and you might actually get a focused Morgan State team here in this one. Delaware State last beat Maryland Eastern Shore on the road, which is a little bit of an upset. That was a decent win to finish the regular season for Delaware State. I don't believe either of these teams have played yet in the conference tournament. I think the conference tournament hasn't started yet, actually. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but we have one game in the MEAC today. I have no idea why. The money looks like it is coming in on Morgan State. They're up to a 3-point favorite. 85% of tickets, 90% of the cash on them. And while I think Morgan State is overrated, I think they will get bounced from this tournament somewhere, maybe even before the final. I don't think it's going to happen here because Delaware State is quite bad. This game is in Norfolk, by the way. So if this whole conference tournament is being played in Norfolk, that's kind of lame, too, because that gives Norfolk State an advantage out of the 4 seed there. So I don't know if that's the case or not. But in this game, Delaware State's awful. I think the fact that Morgan State's coming off a real scare and Delaware State had an upset in their last game, I'll agree with Morgan State, but I think they are an overrated team as well. Okay. We got Conference USA in action here. That game's at 6 p.m., by the way. 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Missouri State and Liberty. Missouri State already played yesterday in this conference tournament, so they do have an advantage there. These games are in Huntsville, Alabama. It is kind of a weird thing for Missouri State, though, because they're new to this conference. So a lot of times if you're new to a conference, you won't be that accustomed to, playing in that area, playing in the venue, whatever. But the good thing for Missouri State is they played yesterday. They got the win. I think I had a lean towards them in that game yesterday. They beat FIU, Florida International. So Missouri State, they now have an advantage of having played in this venue already. They got the win. They got some momentum here. They're playing Liberty, who is the 1 seed here. Last time they played Liberty, they scared Liberty, man. But everybody in this conference pretty much scared Liberty. Liberty's had so many close games, man. They're one of the luckiest teams in the country. I think they're not as good as people think they are. Now, Liberty might take Missouri State seriously because that was the one time they played, and Liberty almost lost to them at home. But Liberty hasn't played yet in the tournament here. They finished the season with a nice win at home senior night against Sam Houston. I almost said San Jose State. H for Jose. San Jose State. Sam Houston State. Liberty beat them. They're the 2 seed, by the way, in this conference, Sam Houston State. So pretty big win for Liberty to finish the season. They actually season swept Sam Houston. So they're coming off a nice win there. And they have not played yet in this tournament, so they're not yet adjusted to it. So I would probably take the points here with Missouri State, man. Liberty's already up to a 6-point favorite, but they're very public. 83% of the tickets and cash on them. That line looks to me like it's getting a bit high, man. Liberty plays all these close games. I would probably lean towards taking the points with Missouri State here. So that would be my opinion in that one. And then at 9 p.m., the number 2 seed is also in action with Sam Houston. I don't know why these conferences set it up like this, but the 2 teams that won in the opening round yesterday who play in basically to play the 1 and 2 seeds, they play again right away today. And then the 4, 5, 3 through 6 don't play yet in this conference tournament, which is weird. But whatever. New Mexico State won last night as the 10 seed. They're playing Sam Houston now in this one. Now, New Mexico State, I still think they're an undervalued team. I don't remember if I gave them out as a lean in that game last night, but you know me, I've liked New Mexico State because they've been so unlucky this year. And I think at some point I expected them to start turning it around. It's just the free throw disparity has been awful against them this season. They get called for so many fouls. They don't draw fouls. But at some point that just becomes like a thing, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't become an outlier when it becomes, an actual trend. So it's a little bit weird. But New Mexico State did get the win yesterday. They won 3 games in a row now. They're now adjusted to the venue. They beat Jacksonville State yesterday in Jacksonville State's home state of Alabama, by the way. Now New Mexico State has that game out of the way, under their belt. Now they're playing Sam Houston here. New Mexico State is used to the venue now. Sam Houston is not. Sam Houston finished the season with that big game against Liberty. Now, they did lose 2 games in a row, so you could say, well, they're going to bounce back. They're going to have some new momentum, hit the reset button now they get to play in the tournament. That's true, but I'd probably lean to New Mexico State here, man, because they're accustomed to the venue now. Even though I think Sam Houston has a very legitimate shot to win this tournament. 72% of tickets, 85% of the cash on New Mexico State. Sam Houston's up to a 5-point favorite, but it does look like the money's on New Mexico State. I'm going to agree with it. We'll see what happens. All right. We're almost through the college basketball here. Man, these shows take forever during college basketball because I talk about every fucking game. All right. 7 p.m. CBS Sports. We will have another auto bid clinched. I haven't talked about either of the finals yet, I don't think, but we have one. No, I talked about one with Southland. There are 3, though. 3 more bids will be clinched tonight. Boston University is at Lehigh. The higher seed hosts all these games in this tournament. It's on CBS Sports. This is the Patriot League. Now, BU is coming off a ridiculous upset of Navy. So that is kind of a reason to maybe not love BU here because they pulled off such a ridiculous upset against the 1 seed Navy, who people were really talking about Navy, maybe being kind of a dangerous 14 seed in the tournament. Now they're not going to get there at all. But BU might actually show up with a chip on their shoulder here because everybody's saying BU shouldn't have won. And I'm saying that too. The clock operator fucked Navy in that game, dude. BU shouldn't have gotten that last shot off. The clock was stopped for like 4 seconds with about 3.8 left in the entire game. I don't think BU would have gotten that shot off. And if they were watching the clock, they would have had to take that shot from further back. So it's really stupid. They got the win on that buzzer beater. So I think BU, because they're hearing that all week, basically. Like, they've had some rest now, and they've been hearing that since whenever that happened, several days ago now. Oh, BU shouldn't have won this game or whatever. So maybe they will show up here. And I've been saying I think Lehigh is not the second best team in this conference. And in fact, I think they're actually worse than Navy, Colgate, BU, and American, and maybe even some other teams here. I don't think Lehigh is that close to even the second best team here. Now, Lehigh did get the win over Colgate. That's a fine win for sure. That's how they got here. Looking at the regular season, Lehigh beat BU on the road by 2. They actually swept them. They beat them twice. They beat them at home by 3, but those are both really close games. And if you dig into the games a little bit, the games are actually misleading. The game at BU, Lehigh did lead for most of the game, but if you look at what happened in this game, BU actually out-rebounded them 37-30. It's just they lost the turnover battle, so they handed Lehigh a bunch of extra possessions, and Lehigh hit 11 three-pointers, hit 46% of their threes, whereas BU only hit 6. So that was a bit of an outlier there, too. So that game wasn't totally what it looked like, and BU still almost won the game, took them to overtime. Then the later game at Lehigh, BU was dominating this game. Like, they were winning this game almost the entire way on the road here. So the last time they were in the venue they're playing in tonight, Lehigh barely won the rebounding battle in this one. BU actually won the turnover battle in this one, even though they were on the road. BU had more field goal attempts in the game. They were winning for 72% of the game, but they only went to the free throw line 5 times. And Lehigh went 13 times and hit 12 of them. So the free throw disparity pretty much decided the game here. I don't think the free throw disparity is going to be that crazy this time. BU, I'm expecting them to get to the line more than 5 times. Let's put it that way. I like BU in this game, man. I think they're the better team. They're favored on the road, believe it or not, for a reason. Of course, all the bracketologies, except me, because I do my own, all the bracketologies just, you know, they're all idiots, and they don't analyze the game, and they just pencil in, you know, they pencil in the higher seed. Oh, let's pencil in Lehigh here. That's not what I would do, and the money's agreeing with me. BU's actually a 2-point favorite here, and, dude, they're a road favorite for a reason, man. Odds makers are telling you they're actually the better team here. They've actually been one of the hotter teams in this conference, too. If you look at KenPom, he has them as the better team as well. He has them 253rd in the country, which I know isn't that good. And I know their defense actually really stinks, so that's the one drawback for BU here. But Lehigh's defense isn't terrific, and BU has a significantly better offense. Both teams play slow, and Lehigh, by the way, is the 19th luckiest team in the country. So I've been telling you, they're not very good. They're 290th in KenPom's rankings here, so they are lower than BU, who is 40 ranking spots higher, basically. And BU is much less lucky at 250th in the country, and both teams like to play slow, so the pace won't really throw either team off in this one. But, yeah, I'm going to lean to BU here, even though they did pull off the big upset. It's the final. I think they're the better team. 52% of the cash on BU. 65% of tickets on Lehigh, though. So the public, despite BU beating Navy, you'd think the public would be like, well, if BU beat Navy, they should be able to beat Lehigh. But the public might be thinking, well, Lehigh's the higher seed. They're at home. They already beat BU twice. Of course they're going to win this game. I don't agree. 65% of tickets on Lehigh, 52% of the cash on BU. And we'll see if my parents' alma mater and sisters, we'll see if they get into the tournament, man. Whoever wins this game will probably be playing in Dayton, though, in a play-in game for a 16 seed. That's how awful this conference is. And you saw my bracketology. I have BU in it right now, and I have them as literally the last team in. Like, they're the worst power-rated team in the entire field, and Lehigh is even worse than that. So, there you go. So that's the Patriot League. We do have some American Conference stuff going on here. That tournament begins with Tulane and Memphis here. Memphis, again, Memphis, like, they're talented enough that they could turn it on at some point and win against most of the teams in this conference, man. But they've just been playing awful. I think Penny Hardaway's a bad coach. Now, interestingly, these teams literally just played to finish the season, and Tulane lost at home by 1 point. So, you know, I don't know how much to really take away from that. I think Tulane's been an overrated team all year, though. They actually beat Memphis on the road by 2 earlier this year. So these teams played 2 really close games. And maybe this will be another one. But I actually think it's more of a positive for Memphis because they ended a long losing streak with that win. So I kind of like that, man. But it is a little bit of a quick road revenge angle for Tulane, I guess. If they just lost to Memphis on the road, now they get to play on a neutral this time. They get to try to make adjustments there. But again, it wasn't a blowout loss or anything. Memphis ended a long losing streak, which I think is a positive. But for Tulane, losing 4 games to end the season, 2 of them were against the best 2 teams in the conference, Tulsa and USF, South Florida. That one on the road, although Tulane got annihilated in those games. But ending the season on a 4-game losing streak, sometimes you will, having that time off can break that losing momentum for you. Memphis is a 4-point favorite here, but I got to lean to Memphis here, I think, man. I think Memphis is the better team here. And, I mean, the odds makers are telling you that. These games are all in Birmingham, Alabama, which is kind of stupid because it means UAB basically gets to play at home here. And they're not the 1 seed, of course. Tulane, 67% of tickets on them, 53% of the cash on Memphis. Dude, I know I've been leaning to Memphis a lot, and it hasn't come through, but the tournament can be a reset. I still think Memphis is one of the more underrated teams in this conference, and Tulane is one of the more overrated teams in this conference. So that's the way I look at it. I would probably lay it with Memphis here. Will, what's up? I talked about the football stuff a little bit. Baseball, I talked about on Losercast last night. I don't know what to say about baseball. Yeah, I mean, I don't care about the World Baseball Classic. Whatever. The only thing I like is that the Red Sox players are all playing really well. Duran, Roman Anthony, Yoshida, they all look good right now, so I'm happy about that. And Weissert, who's also on the Red Sox, I'm pretty sure won that game for Italy, because of course Weissert, he's Italian, of course, right? What the fuck? He's Italy's closer. Totally makes sense. Dude, the World Baseball Classic is so fucking stupid. Like, you have all these guys who are American that are like, no, I'm going to play for this other country just because I have this heritage, even if they're not even from that country. And Weissert is like a fucking German name. I don't know why he's on Italy. Yeah, oh, well, I guess he's playing for one of the Axis powers at least, so there you go. I have no fucking idea. Max Crosby, dude, he's a great player. I don't know. He's a head case, though. I don't know what is going on with him. I don't know what caused him to fail his physical. I don't know what's going on with that. The 83 points is bullshit. I hate that shit. He went to the line 43 times, and it was against the fucking Wizards. And, dude, that game was like an all-star game. It was like a scrimmage. Neither team was doing anything to try to defend anything. It was a bullshit game. Like, games like that shouldn't even happen in the regular season. The Wizards scored 130 in that fucking game, and they lost by 20 points. Dude, it's awful. It's fucking awful. And Miami, as a team, besides Bam, only scored 67. The rest of the team scored 67. So it was basically just like they just rigged the game, just set it up, just keep passing it to him. And then it was almost like Washington just kept intentionally fouling him. Like, it's so meaningless. And I'm not a Kobe fan at all. Like, I hate the Lakers. I'm a Celtic fan. But Kobe's 81-point game or whatever was more legit than that shit was last night. That game should be an asterisk completely. It should be thrown out completely. It's a complete bullshit game. It's so fucking stupid. I absolutely hate it. I fucking hate it. And Wilt Chamberlain never scored 100, by the way. There's no evidence that it ever happened, so no. But no, it's all fucking bullshit. And yeah, congratulations to the Heat, who will probably be playing in a play-in game or in the play-in rounds or whatever. Who cares? The other American League game is Temple and Florida Atlantic here in the late night slate. Game at 9 p.m. Eastern. Also in Birmingham. Temple, they're an okay team, but they are coming off a really close call. They almost went into Tulsa and beat them to finish the season. So I think they might be in a little bit of a hangover spot off of a huge performance like that. Now, they did just lose to FAU on the road by 4. They actually lost at home by 6 to them earlier this year. So FAU did beat them twice. I think FAU is getting healthier at the right time. They finished the season playing a little bit better. They did lose pretty ugly to Wichita at the end of the season. But I like teams that are coming off a bad performance in their final regular season game because the tournament can be like a reset for them, whereas Temple might be a little bit hungover. I think FAU is a lot better than their seeding would suggest. I think they're a lot better than their record makes them look. I like FAU in this one. The money is not agreeing with me, though, and they're really public. They're a 1.5-point favorite here. 93% of tickets, 89% of the cash on FAU. They're extremely public with less of the money on them, but I kind of lean towards them in this game, man. I don't know what else to tell you. It would be a money line play, though, would be my recommendation on that one because they're a 1.5-point favorite. Any favorite in that range, I would recommend money line instead of spread. So just like I said with some of the other games here. By the way, like the money has flipped on that Georgetown DePaul game now, where the money is now coming in at Georgetown. So it's just all fucking crazy. All right. Oh, man, this is taking so long. I think we're actually, oh no, we have Big West and Big Sky, and then we're done, I think. Let me see here. Oh no, we have to talk about the WAC as well. Fucking god damn it. All right. Yeah, the WAC, we have Tarleton State and Abilene Christian playing in the opener in the WAC. Now, we got to figure out what's going on with Utah Valley in the WAC, man, because there was something going on where yesterday they had to, the injunction that they had, like the temporary restraining order. Because here's what happened with Utah Valley, if you don't know. They're leaving the WAC to go to the Big West. They didn't pay the exit fee, and the WAC sued them and banned them from this tournament. Utah Valley then sued the WAC, and the court gave them a temporary restraining order to allow them to play because it's unfair to not let them play in this tournament. It looks like they are still in, though, because they have a TBD on the schedule here for the semifinals. So it looks like they are still in the bracket. So Utah Valley, then yesterday the injunction so here it is. Yesterday the injunction ended, and Utah Valley was still going to have to pay $1 million to the WAC in order to stay in the tournament, but it looks like they actually did it. So whatever. Fuck the WAC. It's all fucking stupid, but Utah Valley, they'll be in the tournament at least, so that's fine. But hey, if they paid $1 million, that tells you that Utah Valley wants to be here, though, so there is that. But they're not playing tonight. The bottom teams are playing. It's a very weird 7-team conference at this one. I think the conference should just disband. Now, Tarleton State, it looks like their coach Gillespie, this is his last season with them, so I think he's going to coach them for as long as they remain in the tournament. But a lot of times teams like that play with motivation, man. So when they know this is the last, basically the last dance for their coach, a lot of times the team, if they like the coach, they're going to show up for that coach. Tarleton also finished with 4 losses in a row. They won their last game against Abilene Christian at home by 3. They lost to them on the road by 14, and they played them 3 times because this is the WAC. They lost to them the first time at home, so they won the most recent matchup but lost the previous 2 against them. But losing the last 4 games, I think will actually maybe help Tarleton here because I think the rest might help them break that losing momentum. Abilene Christian came into this also on a losing streak, though, 4 losses in a row. So both teams come into this on a losing streak, so they might both readjust and come into this game with a little bit more momentum here, ending their losing momentum, let's say. But the money's all coming in on Tarleton, and I actually agree with it. I think they're going to play with some effort here for their coach, man. So I like it. They're up from 1 to 2.5 here now. This game is in Las Vegas. By the way, the WAC gets played at the Orleans as well. I think the WAC starts right after the West Coast Conference finishes. So I think they're playing in that same arena at the Orleans. Abilene Christian, 63% of tickets on them, 86% of the cash on Tarleton, though. So the money is all on Tarleton here. The public is like, oh, I'm getting points with the team with the better record or whatever. I think it's the better record. Maybe not. No, actually it isn't. Tarleton has the better record, but for whatever reason, the public is on Abilene Christian. Maybe they remember back in 2021 or whatever, Abilene Christian won a tournament game in the NCAA tournament. Maybe that's what they remember. I don't fucking know. But I like Tarleton in that one. I think they'll play hard for their coach there. I would lean to Tarleton. All right. Then we got, that's the only WAC game, I think, tonight. It's like the 7 versus the 6 or however they set up their tournament there. All right. Then all we got left is Big West and, the Big West opening round. Let's go to that. Cal Poly and UC San Diego here. UC San Diego is really actually pretty good. The Big West is definitely a cluster. By the way, this tournament is in Henderson, Nevada, by the way, so they're outside of Las Vegas here. I don't know if that venue really helps certain teams over others. Now, Cal Poly, I never really liked them because they just play fast. Like, that's all they do. They play super fast. They're not good on defense. UC San Diego is definitely the better team, but the problem for UC San Diego here is they finished the season super hot. They won 6 out of their last 7 games. That's usually not great coming into a tournament again because whatever momentum you had could get disrupted. Their second to last win was an easy win against Cal Poly, where they beat them by almost 20 points at home. And they actually lost at Cal Poly by 2 earlier this year. But, the quick revenge, whatever you want to call it, the quick adjustments will be on the side of Cal Poly. And UC San Diego finished the season with a win over UC Santa Barbara. That was a pretty good win, although UC Santa Barbara has dropped now in the standings. So, maybe they won't be in a hangover spot after that, at least because UC Santa Barbara's kind of fallen off to the point where they're actually playing tonight. Cal Poly might have the adjustments to make, though, off that recent loss. They had an easy win to finish the season after they lost to UC San Diego and UC Irvine, who are both way better teams. But they got a win to end that losing momentum against a very bad Bakersfield team. The pimp coach that they have there, who is not going to be playing in this tournament. Now Cal Poly, at least it sets up a little bit better for them in this game. The money is coming in on Cal Poly. UC San Diego's down from 7 to 5.5 here. 55% of tickets, 82% of the cash on Cal Poly. I think UC San Diego should win this game because I think they're a threat to actually win this tournament, to be honest. They're one of the top 3 teams in this conference. It's just that they have to play this opening game, and it is kind of a tricky spot. I think I would lean to Cal Poly, though, plus the points in the adjustment spot there, but I don't love, their style is not really conducive to really anything good. Cal Poly. They're number 1 in the entire country in tempo, dude, and their defense is like a bottom 100 defense. So I don't love that. The fact that they play that fast, it's just fucking stupid. They're in the mid-tier in luck. For UC San Diego, they're also kind of a mid-tier luck team, although less lucky than Cal Poly. UC San Diego will probably try to slow them down. We'll see if they're able to do that. UC San Diego is the way better defense, though. And, I usually do like the better defense, so they do have that going for them. And they're almost a top 100 team in KenPom, at least. So they have that going for them. UNLV, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. I believe I already talked about the Mountain West, so you might have to go back to look at that. I already talked about the UNLV game. You're not going to like what I have to say about it, though. I didn't give out a play on it or anything, though. I'm being so selective. I'm talking about all these games for 2 hours, and then I only have one actual play here. UC Santa Barbara is playing against UC Davis in the other opening round in this tournament. Other opening round game, I should say. UC Santa Barbara finished the season on 5 losses in their last 6 games, but they played a lot of good teams in there, man. Hawaii, UC Irvine, UC San Diego, Northridge is not that bad. So they were up against it, man. So usually I'll say, well, when a team finishes on a bad note like that, they'll bounce back, and use the tournament as a reset. I'm not so sure in this case because those last 2 games, they played really tough, close games against Irvine and UC San Diego. So those are tough games. So they might be hung over coming into this game against UC Davis. They did lose most recently by 10 at UC Davis. Also lost at home by 7, though. So I don't know. I should have dug into those matchups. I honestly didn't, though, because I didn't really, I just didn't see enough in this game anyway to really even want to care. But maybe UC Davis does have a bit of a matchup edge over UC Santa Barbara, beating them twice. They also lost more badly to UC Irvine in their final game here. So I kind of like UC Davis in this game. Unfortunately, because I think Santa Barbara is good enough that they should get through this game. They're a 5.5 point favorite. This +4 that's a mistake on this side. I think they might have been -4 to open, and now they're -5.5. But the money is coming in on UC Davis, and I do agree with that. 56% of the tickets on Santa Barbara, 89% of the cash on Davis, though. So I do like that side. UC Davis plus the points, though. Although obviously, I kind of expect Santa Barbara to win the game, though. So, I don't love having those thoughts where it's like, well, they should win this game, but, I lean in the other direction against a point spread that's not that big of a point spread. Who's everyone, though? I don't know, man. I don't know if the public likes them. Us bettors like them. Looks like the public is kind of on UNLV there. But the actual money is on Wyoming. All right, and then to finish it off, we have to wait until very late at night to see who wins the Big Sky. 11:30 p.m. I'll stay up to see who wins it, man. We have the 7-seed Idaho and the 4-seed Montana in this game. And Idaho, believe it or not, is the favorite here. This game is in Boise, so it is a little bit closer to where Idaho is. Well, I mean, it's in Idaho, but Idaho in Moscow, Idaho is closer to Boise than, where's Montana? Missoula, Montana, I think is where they play. So it's, yeah, this arena is obviously closer to Idaho's campus. Anyway, the odds makers are telling you Idaho's the better team, and when you watched my Big Sky Conference breakdown, I did identify Idaho as one of the more underrated teams in this tournament. They also haven't been in this championship game for like a decade probably or something like that. I actually do like Idaho to win this game, even though they played the later game last night. They had kind of an easy win against Eastern Washington. I know Eastern Washington was the 3 seed, but Idaho did not suffer a letdown after they beat Montana State, so they bounced the best power-rated team in the conference, Montana State, from the tournament. So Idaho has definitely been impressive, man. Montana, you know, they have decent balance, but they got a nice win last night, too, as an upset against Portland State. They pulled off 2 straight upsets in the tournament against Northern Colorado and then Portland State. So they actually bounced the 1 seed, even though I thought Portland State was actually better than, I thought Portland State was not as good as Northern Colorado or Montana State, but they were a slight favorite last night against Montana. I actually kind of thought Montana was going to get it done. Portland State, they're a really good defense, at least as far as Big Sky is concerned. They're a pretty good defense, but I don't know, man. I just thought they were an imbalanced team, an overrated team. I didn't love it. I liked the fact that Montana had been tested. So Montana has been battle tested, so there's no doubt about that, but so is Idaho at this point. So, you know, Idaho's last couple of games were somewhat close, so you don't have a team like Portland State was coming in last night only having beaten like Idaho State or whatever, so they hadn't really been battle tested. Both these teams have, but yeah, I'm going to lead to Idaho here, man. I think they're the better team. I'll show you KenPom in a minute. Montana did beat Idaho the last time they played them, I believe, at home against them. They won by 5, and then they lost on the road. Oh, no, they won on the road against Idaho, too, by 6. So, believe it or not, yeah, in these conference finals, the 2 teams that I like, BU and Idaho, they both lost both regular season matchups against their opponents, but I still like them both. Yeah, I didn't really dig into these matchups, though. I dug into the BU one. I didn't really dig into this, though. In fact, Idaho should have won the game at Montana, dude. The rebounding battle was close, and Idaho had 14 more field goal attempts in the game, but they made the same amount of them, and they hardly went to the line at all. Montana went to the line 20 times to Idaho's 12, and Idaho shot 38% from the field, so that was definitely an outlier in that second game. Idaho probably should have won that game. And then the game at Idaho, what happened in this game? Let's see. Montana did lead the whole game pretty much, but Montana shot 50%. So again, Idaho had way more field goal attempts in the game. They had 12 more field goal attempts in the game. They won the rebounding battle by 9, too. So how the fuck did they lose this game? I have no idea. They went to the line more, although they didn't shoot well from the line. Basically, I think it was like the 3-point variance. Idaho shot 17% from 3. They only shot 39% from the field. The Grizz shot 50% from the field. So, yeah, both these games are outliers. I think they're actually both misleading results. So I do like Idaho in this one. And KenPom does have them as the better team. That was Idaho State. No, Idaho's better than that. He has Idaho 152 in the country. Pretty unlucky. Bottom 100 luck, basically. Decent balance, actually a top 150 defense. They play at a mid-tempo. And then for Montana, he's got Montana like 30 ranking spots below them. Very lucky, according to KenPom, 56 in luck. Montana's going to try to go a little bit faster. And he actually, believe it or not, Idaho is the better team on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense. Both teams are a little bit better on defense than offense. But Idaho beats Montana in both departments. So Idaho is the better team here. Yeah, I like Idaho. Idaho. The money is coming in on Idaho. They're a 2.5-point favorite right now. 60% of tickets, 91% of the cash on them. I agree. I like Idaho there. Yeah, the betters, yes. And you know me, I like when the underseeded team is actually the favorite. Like, people are going to be like, how is the 7 seed favorite over the 4? You know what I mean? And everybody, like, all people remember is a Montana team wins this conference every fucking year, right? Like Montana won it last year. Montana State won it a couple years in a row prior to that. It seems like it's always those two teams. So, yeah, people are not going to expect Idaho to win it, but that's what I'm rooting for now. Idaho, yeah, there'll be a nice 15 seed in the tournament or whatever if they get in. All right, let's talk about the NHL here. Man, this is a long video today. I think it'll be less long. This will be the longest one of the week, though, because we'll have fewer games to talk about as teams start getting eliminated in these tournaments or whatever. All right. Even though the best teams still haven't played. All right. Some of the small conferences will be over and whatever. Although, actually, I don't know, because we'll have more hockey to talk about tomorrow probably, so that's not going to be good. Today we only have 2 games. They're both at 7:30 p.m. Montreal and Ottawa is the first game. Montreal, they just beat Toronto last night. I thought Toronto set up decently in that game. They still didn't win. They did not even cover on the puck line, although I don't know if there was an empty net at the end or something. There was, of course. So, dude, if you took my recommendation, you had like a puck line play on Toronto or whatever yesterday, that is such bullshit. Losing that on an empty net, fuck that. When they were down by 1. So that's what happened to Montreal. Montreal kind of barely escaped yesterday, but they are playing on a back-to-back, but they did have 2 days off prior to that, so they're not totally unrested coming into this, although they're going to have to switch back to Montembeault, and he's kind of been struggling in net for them, which is why they switched away from him and took Dobes for their primary goalie. Ottawa hasn't played since Monday. They beat Vancouver, which is an easy win, whatever. But they're returning home from a road trip, and that's the real problem. They had a long road trip that started on Saturday, February 28th. You know I do not like teams returning home from road trips. Ottawa had to go all the way to the Pacific Northwest for that. I don't like it, man, because they have to cross the country. They have to cross a bunch of time zones. They might get distracted coming back home. You got family life to get back to, whatever. Now, Montreal is a team that should attract your focus, but there's no way that I can play a team that's returning home from a road trip like that. Absolutely not. Ottawa's taking the money. They're all the way up to minus 190, 55% of tickets on them, 80% of the cash on them. I don't like it, though. I actually probably lean to Montreal here. I think you might even get some value on them because they're like, how could Montreal be this much of an underdog against the odds makers are telling you Ottawa's the better team out of these two? Really? I mean, I know Montreal's on the back-to-back. I know you have to downgrade them for Montembeault being in net, but this is ridiculous. And with Ottawa returning home from a road trip, I would lean towards Montreal on that one. Usually when the line's misleading, I'm going to say the odds makers are telling you something, and that means you should be taking Ottawa. 55% of tickets, 80% of the cash on Ottawa, but I just don't agree. There's no way I'm going to be on a team returning home from a road trip like that. And then Washington at Philadelphia is on TNT and HBO Max and True TV. Washington beat Calgary 7-3. I think they caught Calgary after Calgary upset Carolina. So they caught Calgary in a letdown spot, and they absolutely destroyed them. But coming off a win like that, that's usually pretty satisfying. So even though this should be a game they should get up for, I don't know, man. I don't know if I love a team that just won 7-3 against anybody. These two teams just played a home and home. One was at Philadelphia before the Olympic break, and Philadelphia won that game. But Washington won the game coming out of the break, and they got a quick revenge there. So maybe the zigzag or whatever flips back to Philadelphia here as far as the revenge motive here. And you're going to get an effort out of Philly because they're staying at home, and they just had a bad home loss to the Rangers. We know the Rangers are better on the road, but losing 6-2 at home to anybody, and they lost 3-0 at home the game before that. I don't think it's becoming a trend when it's just 2 games, but yeah, I think it's going to motivate Philadelphia. Like when you lose that badly at home, you're going to be motivated. So I like Philadelphia on this one, and the market's not agreeing with me on that one either. Washington up to minus 126, 76% of tickets, 88% of the cash. And then the odds makers are telling you Washington is the better team here. I've been saying Philadelphia is overrated, but they're starting to look worse now. Like their record is starting to look worse and whatever. Yeah, I would lean towards Philadelphia as the home dog in that one, but no strong opinion really. NBA, I don't want to get involved in the NBA today either, but we have an ESPN doubleheader. The first game of those is Cleveland at Orlando. Orlando is still going to be without Franz Wagner, who is supposed to come back soon, I think. Cleveland got a win over Philadelphia, a very injured Philadelphia team in their last game. Cleveland was able to take care of business there. Now they're starting a road trip. Usually you are focused to start a road trip, though. I don't think they're really going to be in a letdown spot off of Philadelphia. Orlando, probably going to get an effort out of them too, but Orlando is returning home from a road trip, although it was only a quick weekend road trip, Saturday, Sunday. But they pulled off a huge upset against Minnesota, and then they absolutely destroyed Milwaukee. So they might be feeling, a little bit too high about that. Returning home, it's not going to be the typical return home distraction spot, I don't think, because they haven't been away for that long, and you're not really going to overlook Cleveland, but those were really satisfying wins for Orlando, man. So, yeah, the money is coming in on the Magic. I don't love it, though. The Cavs are up to -3.5, 64% of tickets on the Cavs, so they're a little bit of a public side. 64% of the cash on the Magic. I wouldn't do it. I don't really love the Magic here, man. I mean, they should get up for the game, I guess, but when you're coming off of blowouts like that, and Cleveland didn't have a particularly great game against Philly, I almost kind of lean to Cleveland in that one. Toronto and New Orleans. Toronto's coming off getting destroyed by Houston yesterday, but they're on a back-to-back. They lost by 14. Now they're playing a third game in 4 days in different cities. So that's not exactly easy. New Orleans, you got to figure out what you're getting for effort out of them, but it looks like they are giving you effort. I mean, they've won some recent games here, so that's a sign that New Orleans is still playing it out and giving you effort here. They beat Washington despite being in a return home spot. That Washington team is giving you no effort at all at this point. So New Orleans in a bad spot, returning from a long road trip, still won by 20 points. Now they've had a couple of days off to get settled in at home. I think you will get another effort out of them here, but they do play Houston next, which is a bigger game. So this game is a very hard read as well. The public is on the Raptors, 78% of tickets on them, 65% of the cash. So the market is indicating on the Pelicans. The Raptors are a 2.5-point favorite. I think, you're probably getting a little bit less value on the Pelicans because the Raptors are playing on the back-to-back. So usually you get less value playing against the team that's on the back-to-back, but sometimes it makes sense to do it, and I don't really disagree with the Pelicans here. I kind of agree with the market in that one, so I guess do with that information what you want to. The Knicks are at Utah. The Knicks have kind of a difficult travel spot here. They're playing a fourth game in 6 days, fifth game in 8 days, and actually a very dreaded sixth game in 9 days, all in different cities. That's difficult, man, with one home game in the mix there against Oklahoma City. It's a pretty difficult travel spot for the Knicks, man. But they did just lose both games in L.A., losing to the Clippers in their last game. So maybe they'll give you an effort now and be in a bounce-back spot. But, man, they could be getting tired after – this is just a ridiculous travel spot here for them. For the Jazz, they could be in a letdown spot because they did just beat Golden State. Good win at home, in a return home spot, no less. But they're – probably going to be the more rested team because at least they get to stay at home, and I don't think they're going to overlook the Knicks here. The money is coming in on the Knicks. They're up to a 14-point favorite, 80% of tickets, 94% of the cash. I wouldn't lay it. I would probably lean to taking the points with the Jazz in that one, although I know the Jazz are injured, but it looks like they're still giving you better, they're still giving you some effort here at least, like they had that win over Golden State. That at least tells you they're getting up for some of the games against some of the better teams here, so with the Knicks being in that, spot where they played so many games in quick succession, there's no way I would lay that on the road. That's that game. The second game of the doubleheader is the best NBA game of the night on ESPN at 10 p.m., which is Houston at Denver. Denver, they're not a very good home team, man, and their defense has been pretty bad, although Aaron Gordon is back, so their defense should start improving, but as of now, Denver, they're not a very good defense, and they're an elite offense. So that's just the way they've been playing this year. Denver's coming off a tough game where they went to Oklahoma City and almost beat them. So Denver could be in a bit of a hangover spot here, even though they are hosting Houston here. Houston's coming off smacking Toronto, and that was yesterday. So Houston is on the back-to-back here. They're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, and having to go into elevation. So that's not exactly great for Houston. It's a tough travel spot, but Denver's not that good at home, man. 17-13. That's you again. I always point out you'd think they'd be better at home than they are. I think they're just. I don't know, man. I don't know what the deal is. But with that elevation edge, it just hasn't been happening for them. Houston above 500 on the road is fairly impressive. 18-16. I think last year they were better on the road than that, but they're not a bad road team at all. The Nuggets are a 6-point favorite here, partially because Houston's on the back-to-back. 66% of tickets, 84% of the cash on the Nuggets. Money coming in on the Nuggets. I kind of lean towards Houston getting the points there, man. I don't like the spot that Denver's in off that huge game against the Thunder. So I would kind of lean towards taking the points. Plus Denver, I know they covered as an underdog against Oklahoma City. I think Denver as a favorite, like they've failed to cover so many games in a row as a favorite. I don't know. It's something crazy where like they're on this stretch where they win games and don't cover them. Something like that. I don't know, man. It's just wild. Anyway, Charlotte is at Sacramento here. Charlotte's on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth in 6 days, and a fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities, and actually a sixth in 9 days. So they're playing a sixth game in 9 days as well, which is not easy, with that first game being at home, though. But still, that's not easy. Now they're going from Portland. They won in Portland last night. Didn't cover, though. I was correct about leaning towards Portland, I think, yesterday. Actually, did I lean to Portland? I think I did. I don't know. I don't remember. But now they're going to Sacramento, and you got to try to figure out, are you going to get an effort out of Sacramento here? And it seems like maybe you will, because they've won 2 games in a row. It looks like they are kind of putting in effort, although those are against other teams that are just playing out the stretch now. Sacramento played yesterday, but the good thing for them is they're staying at home, so that is more helpful to them. I'd probably lean to the Kings here. The Hornets laying this price on the road is kind of crazy. It's dropped from 14 to 12.5, 74% of tickets, 90% of the cash on Houston. I would lean towards taking the points with the Kings, man. And then finally, closing the show with Minnesota. Yeah, with the team that really, really let me down in the second half yesterday. I can't believe how bad that second half was for them yesterday. They're on a back-to-back. Now, at least for them, they had rest before the Laker game last night, so they won't be that tired, I don't think, coming into this game. Staying in L.A., going to the Clippers now. The Clippers did just beat the Knicks, so the Clippers are coming off a nice performance. Good win against the Knicks on Monday. I don't think they're going to overlook Minnesota. They did lose at home in a weird low-scoring game, 94-88 to Minnesota back on February 26th. So I still don't think the Clippers are going to overlook them. The Clippers are a 2-point favorite. The public is not going to play the Clippers, really, because the Clippers still have a bad record. So, why would you play a team with the worst record as a favorite, right? 72% of tickets, 89% of the cash on the Clippers. I don't know if I could really – I don't think I could recommend the Clippers, though, coming off that huge win, though. T-Wolves are on the back-to-back. I almost kind of lean to the T-Wolves in this game, though, to be honest. So I don't know, man. That you can tell why I'm not on the NBA at all today. That's going to do it, man. All that, 2+ hours just to give you one play, which is on Cincinnati. And I don't like the fact that now money looks like it's coming in on UCF. These percentages are flipping all over the place, dude. It's so difficult to figure out this shit. So you got to rely on your situational capping, man. And that is the only play we got today is Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. They're already adjusted to the venue. They're the way better defense. They have a huge luck disparity in KenPom. They're going to be motivated because they're on the bubble. And I think they're going to have the ability to play a little bit looser than UCF, who's fallen down a little bit. And maybe the pressure's on UCF a little bit. I think UCF maybe is already, they're going to get into the tournament anyway, maybe at this point. Because they're, I think, solidly enough in at this point that I think they're going to get in anyway. So... And again, this is a crazy venue with a glass floor now. So Cincinnati got to play on it last night. So extra edge for them, or yesterday in the afternoon, I should say. A little bit of an extra edge for them, I think, in this game for that reason. So a lot of things we have going for us there with Cincinnati. It's one of those leverage flip spots, I think, where you have the lesser seeded team actually being the better team there. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. I appreciate everybody hanging out, man. Subscribe to the show here. Tell everybody about it. Leave me some comments. Listen on audio, Apple, Spotify. That all helps me out as well. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. You can check that out as well. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. If you want to support me, get some bonus stuff, maybe. And Loser Cast. We had a new episode last night of that. We were a little bit of a short-handed squad last night for that. You go check that out. It was, that episode went to a lot of different places, so go check that out. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Let's enjoy the games. They're starting right now in the Atlantic 10. Peace.